Good evening. This is a hybrid meeting. The city council's member of the public can view this meeting live on Channel 8, the city's website, and YouTube. Live Spanish translation services are being provided for tonight's council meeting by telephone. Please dial 720-386-9023 and use code 104091 *.
Se ofrecen servicios de interpretación en español para esta reunión del Consejo Municipal por teléfono. Marque el número 720-386-9023 y utilice el código 104091 #.
Thank you. All votes on tonight's agenda will be conducted as roll call vote. I will now call the meeting to order and ask the clerk to take a roll call vote.
Mayor Douglas,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Noble,
Present.
Councilmember Madeira,
Here.
Councilmember Teeter,
Present.
Councilmember Chacon,
Present.
Councilmember Kim,
Here.
Councilmember Dukes,
Present.
Councilmember Ford,
Present.
Councilmember Douglas.
Present.
You have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. Please join me in a moment of silence followed by Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, do any council members wish to amend the agenda? Councilmember Kim.
Thank you, Mayor. I wish to move the consent agenda just after public comment. The primary purpose of this is that when consent items are requested to be pulled off, I'd like to take out Proclamation 25-024.
Thank you. It's a motion. Need a second? Councilmember Dukes?
Second.
Okay. All right. The motion on the floor is to adopt the agenda by moving the consent agenda after public comments. We'll ask the clerk to take a roll call vote.
Your vote is open.
Okay, that passes 8-1. All right. Okay, next, public comments. All public comments except for those on public hearings will occur now. If you are intending to comment about a public hearing on tonight's agenda, please refrain from doing so till the public comments for that particular hearing. Public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes each. Person registered to speak multiple items may speak multiple times. Will the city clerk call any virtual in-person speakers, please?
Mayor, we don't have any virtual speakers tonight. Our first in-person speaker will be Tanya Russell. Tanya, if
Okay.
you'd like to come up, you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of council. It's good to see you. I'm here tonight because my address is 15171 East 117th Avenue. I'm here tonight because I'm deeply concerned about a pedestrian safety issue at the intersection of 117th and Chambers. The crosswalk signal has been broken for quite a long time now on the eastbound side of Chambers. I submitted 2 C-Click fixes, one in June and one in July. And I also emailed Councilmember Chacon, but I didn't hear any updates from anybody. The signal is more than just a convenience, it's a critical safety feature. And what I found is that without the flashing lights, many drivers have been conditioned to watch that flashing light. So if you're crossing without it, they really don't stop and they don't look at all. It's dangerous for pedestrians, especially at night. It's scary to cross. This is also a high traffic area for kids because there's a park right across the street on 117th and Chambers. Children should be able to cross safely coming out of their neighborhood. On a personal note, my brother was hit by a car and killed in 2001. So when I see this, it really brings up a lot of safety issues for me, as well as trauma. So I am urging the city to investigate and fix this matter as soon as possible, to prevent tragedy that is really preventable. So that's all. Thank you so much for your time tonight, and thanks for your service to the city.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Appreciate it. Mayor Pro Tem Noble?
Hi, I wanted to respond to part of what you said. If you stay a little bit for the meeting, there is a signalization item on the agenda, and it will be an update on a traffic light at 117th and Chambers.
Thank you.
Mayor, our next speaker we have is Roger Hines. Roger, if you want to come up, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Name's Roger Hines, live at 10450 Brighton Road, Henderson, Colorado. And I was here about 2 months ago to address this problem that I'm going to address again tonight. Traffic on Brighton Road between 104th and 112th. The excessive speeding. I have not seen any patrolmen patrolling the area. I made a suggestion of maybe making flashing signs or speed bumps or something. I have not heard from anybody. And I'd like to know why.
Sir, could you we take action at the end of the meeting. Could you give me the address again, the location?
10450 Brighton Road.
Okay.
Now, I've seen Commerce City police officers out at the intersection of 104th and Brighton Road twice within the last week and a half, and that was because there was wrecks. And that's the only time I've seen any.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Yep.
Sorry you had to come in twice.
That was the last of our speakers.
Okay, thank you. Members of the public were able to submit written comments online and by mail. Written comments were not received by the deadline. If any follow-up is necessary, you should be expected to be contacted by a staff member. All right, we're going to go to consent agenda. The consent agenda includes items that are routine, procedural, informational, self-explanatory, and non-controversial. These items are presented to council for a single motion and vote. Any member of council may ask to remove a specific item off the consent agenda for further discussion and separate vote. Tonight, there are 10 items on the consent agenda. Do any council members wish to remove any items? Councilmember Kim.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull proclamation 25-024 to be read.
Okay. All right. Any other council members? Okay, seeing none, I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as amended. Councilmember Chacon,
I make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Councilmember Ford.
Second.
Okay. Will the city clerk read it title and take a roll call vote?
Minutes of the July 7th, 2025 regular meeting. Ordinance 2696, an ordinance amending the 2025 budget of the City of Commerce City, Colorado by the recognition of the Colorado Department of Transportation grant in the amount of $8,000 for driving under the influence DUI enforcement efforts. Resolution 2025-031, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement for the November 4th, 2025 coordinated mail ballot election. Resolution 2025-037, a resolution declaring support of public art installation for Calu Park. Resolution 2025-071, a resolution awarding a contract to Legacy Hospitality and Entertainment Group for a holiday market and ice rink. Resolution 2025-083, a resolution awarding a construction contract for Second Creek Farms Park to Colorado Designscapes. Resolution 2025-092, a resolution granting a temporary construction easement to LGI Homes, Colorado LLC. Resolution 2025-093, a resolution declaring support of public art installation for Cocklebur at Pioneer Park. Resolution 2025-097, a resolution authorizing award of a contract for playground equipment for the Second Creek Farm Park construction project to ATAS Recreation LLC. Your vote is open. I'm sorry, Councilmember Douglas, I missed your vote. Let me reset it. Yep. We need Mayor Pro Tem Noble, Councilmember Ford, and Councilmember Douglas. Thank you.
Okay. 8, but 1 abstain. All right. Okay. All right, the item number proclamation 25-204, asking Councilmember Kim to state why you pulled this off.
Yes, I believe that we have some of the city staff here, and what I would, I can't speak, I would request if city clerk can please read the proclamation.
Thank you.
Or is there already staff here who's going to be reading it?
Thank you. Whereas Commerce City is building a quality community for a lifetime for growing a community of more than 70,000 residents and 1,700 businesses, and whereas the city's employees numbering more than 1,100 strive to achieve this mission daily, providing excellent public services and customer experiences by anticipating needs, embracing diversity, inclusion, and belonging, and fostering relationships to sustain a growing and vibrant community. And whereas city leadership wishes to recognize employees' contributions to the community through quality customer service and demonstrating their values of integrity, collaboration, innovation, respect, and excellence. And whereas the City Council of the City of Commerce City wishes to recognize and reward employees for their engagement, dedicated service, and outstanding achievements. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of Commerce City hereby proclaims the month of August 2025 as Employee Appreciation Month, thanking the city's employees for all their hard work and dedication to the City of Commerce City.
All right, need a motion and a second to approve proclamation 25024. Councilmember Kim,
So moved.
Mayor Pro Tem Noble.
I'll second that.
All right.
Your vote is open.
Passes unanimously 9-0. And we had to vote on that. So you guys need to come back up here. I know there's going to be comments. Mayor Pro Tem Noble, did you have any comments? Do you want to make?
Yes, I'm so grateful to all of you. You make the city run. Without you, Commerce City wouldn't be what it's become. And we are so thankful for everyone who has devoted their service to Commerce City, those of you who are new and those of you who have been here for 30 years, the full range. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ford.
Thank you. Yes, as a former employee, I know the effort that you all put into our community. And you are the ones that touch our constituents on a day-to-day basis. It's the guys out there striping and fixing the roads, working in the parks, people that come in here and they're paying their bills. It's the person taking the information for speed violations, everything else, from the code enforcement officer on up to the city manager's office. We can't do our job without good, competent employees here at the city doing the day-to-day business. So from the leadership of the city manager's office on down, I want to thank you personally.
Thank you. Councilmember Douglas.
Yes, I want to take the opportunity to thank you personally as well. It's the people behind the scenes that make the machine run. And although we're not a machine, we are a government entity that serves the people. And it's the community that we're here for. And you are here for them as well. And we here on this dais certainly appreciate everything that you do, showing up to work every day and giving it your all. So just wanted to tell you personally that not only do I appreciate you, but I know I'm speaking in behalf of all of the people who live in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Madero.
Just to be the broken record, you guys are what makes the city run, right? We can be gone from the dais and the city would still run, but without you, it would come to a screeching halt. So thank you for all you do. Nothing is possible without you, and hopefully we can get you in a remodeled building soon.
Thank you. Councilmember Dukes.
Just want to say thank you as well. Thank you for all the hard work, all the effort. The city is nothing without you all. So just want to say thank you.
And I want to thank you as well. I've served in this council before, put a lot on your plate then, we put a lot on your plate now, because not only we have an agenda, but there's also things that are added. And so I appreciate all the employees make those adjustments. We've had, some meetings are long, we've had events, and I've seen a lot of employees at those events, music in the park, all kinds of things are happening, and our city is growing. So I really appreciate everybody's effort, because without you guys, we would not, it would be hard for us to actually close a lot of these agenda items that have been brought forward. So appreciate everybody's effort. Thank you. All right, is there a proclamation? Can take a picture? You have one? Okay. All right, can you guys join us up front here and council will take a picture with you guys? Appreciate it. And that's all staff, so.
I think they just, yeah. That couple is gonna sit there thinking that it was going to talk.
So it's just been brought to my attention that the consent agenda, we had an abstention. So we, in the rules, Robert's Rule of Order, under Rule 75.5, Bob's Rule of Order, this allows a vote to abstain. So this appears to have unintentional when voting to approve the consent agenda. So we're going to have to, I'm going to ask City Attorney Zerzecki, so should we ask to rescind this?
I would, well, first of all, I'm not sure if the abstention was intentional or not.
Okay.
If it was not, then I think for the record, we could clarify that it was a yes vote. It was Councilmember Douglas.
Yes.
If it was intentional to hit abstain, per Rule 7.5, disallows abstention. So my recommendation would be to recast the vote. And this, again, was just to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Councilmember Douglas.
If I were to cast a no vote on the consent agenda, how does that reflect the outcome?
It would not, it would still be passed, but it would record you as a no vote as opposed to abstain, which is not allowed per 7.5.
I understand. It's very difficult. There were some items on the consent agenda that had my concern. I probably should have pulled them. I didn't want to get into long, drawn-out discussions on what my concerns were, but it's lumped all together. And so it's just been one of those days. So it's a tough one. So I'm going on record right now as far as being able to say that I had concerns about some of them. Is that correct?
So I think procedurally, there's a couple of steps here. The reason why I brought it to the mayor's attention is while this is just the consent agenda and it's a relatively non-controversial issue, I think it's important for council to understand that per Bob's rules cannot abstain, right? And we need to make sure that that's clear, particularly if we have more controversial issues in the future. I don't want to set a precedent that we allowed abstentions in violation of 7.5. So
I appreciate that.
yeah, so my recommendation would be to make a motion to reconsider the approval of the consent agenda. I'm sorry that this is procedural and will take a moment. That would require a 2/3 vote to reconsider and then recast your votes to approve the consent agenda. And no one should vote for abstain. It should be a yes or a no vote.
Okay.
Well, because I'm not prepared enough to address my concerns, which is one of the reasons that I would take them off, is so that I can speak with accuracy and knowledge. And so that was my reason for abstaining. I understand why I can't. Kind of puts me in a strange position, but I appreciate all your advice and bringing my awareness to this. So
Thank you.
I will Do we have to, everyone vote again for me to
I would
vote
have to make
yes
a
or no?
motion. So just a sec, Councilmember Dukes?
I'd like to make a motion to reconsider the vote on the consent agenda.
Councilmember Teeter?
Second the motion.
Okay, the motion on the floor is to reconsider the consent agenda. Voting on the consent agenda.
Your vote is open.
All right. That passes 8-1. Okay.
So now, Mayor, you should recast your vote for approval of the consent agenda.
Okay. So you want me to state it again, the consent agenda includes items or just recast it?
Yes, I'm sorry, Kim. I think you need to reread them minus the one proclamation that was pulled off.
Minutes of the July 7th, 2025 regular meeting. Ordinance 2696, an ordinance amending the 2025 budget of the City of Commerce City, Colorado by the recognition of the Colorado Department of Transportation grant in the amount of $8,000 for driving under the influence enforcement efforts. Resolution 2025-031, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement for the November 4th, 2025 coordinated mail ballot election. Resolution 2025-037, a resolution declaring support of public art installation for Calu Park. Resolution 2025-071, a resolution awarding a contract to Legacy Hospitality and Entertainment Group for a holiday market and ice rink. Resolution 2025-083, a resolution awarding a construction contract for Second Creek Farms Park to Colorado Designscapes. Resolution 2025-092, a resolution granting a temporary construction easement to LGI Homes Colorado LLC. Resolution 2025-093, a resolution declaring support of public art installation for Cockle Burr at Pioneer Park. Resolution 2025-097, a resolution authorizing award of a contract for playground equipment for the Second Creek Farm Park construction project to ATOS Recreation LLC. Your vote is open.
Okay, pass unanimously. All right, on to notice of council business. Update on signalization at Chambers Road intersection. I'll invite Jason Rogers, City Manager, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Mayor. As you all may remember, on June 2nd, council approved a motion directing me working with staff on identifying opportunities or options for up to and including traffic signalization at the Chambers at 117th intersection. Over the course of the last month, our staff has conducted a level of due diligence pertaining to the improvement of public safety around that intersection. And given that we now have a new MUTCD that has been adopted nationwide, and we're working towards an adoption more locally, this has given us a little bit more analytical support in being able to move forward with the incorporation of a signal at the 117th and Chambers intersection. To that point, we have been working off of my direction in moving forward with a design for a traffic signal at that location. There will also be considerations of additional pedestrian improvements that may include a pedestrian refuge that will be finalized once we get past the design of the traffic signal to facilitate east-west, but also north-south movement, both for vehicles and pedestrians. The cost of that will be approximately $850,000 with what we understand the market conditions around traffic signals for materials and installation. To that point, we thought it was also important to share with you that we're also leveraging the benefits from the design aspect that we're dealing with Heartland and Chambers as well, to which that cost will be $850,000. So at a future meeting, we will come back before this body for an appropriations ordinance in the amount of $1.7 million. That would allow for us to move forward with construction. But right now, we're moving with earnest and with hope of being able to have the design work completed by October 2025 of this year. Also, I'd like to point out in the memo before you all is a recommendation on the adoption of the MUTCD and AASHTO guidelines that give greater credence and a criteria foundation for our staff in the evaluation of traffic signals. The city has not adopted a local policy based off of the nationwide guidelines, and I think this would be able to create certainty and predictability, not just for staff, but also for the community to understand what we are evaluating and making determinations, but would also allow for them to help provide supportive information to us as we go through that evaluation when conducting those analysis that can be requested either by residents or by the council themselves, or looking at it internally as we receive data. So this will, once again, like I said, give us a more predictable path forward, as well as a more transparent evaluation and review of that information. And that is my update, Mayor.
Thank you. Now, you said AASHTO, American Association of Highway Transportation Officials?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mayor Pro Tem Noble.
Thank you very much, City Manager Rogers. This is going to come as great news to a lot of folks who live in that area and people who use Chambers Road on a regular basis. So thank you.
Welcome.
Councilmember Dukes.
That's from prior.
Oh, you had taken it off and put it back on. Okay. Councilmember Kim.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for clarification, Mr. Rogers, you mentioned October 2025 for.
Design work to be completed.
Copy that. Thank you. That's all I got.
All right. Since there's no action, there's no motion to be made. So thank you very much for the update, City Manager Rogers. Okay, up next is Rotary Golf Tournament sponsorship. I'll invite Councilmember Ford to introduce this item.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to sponsor the Rotary Annual Golf Tournament in the amount of $1,000.
Councilmember Teeter. Okay.
Second the motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? The motion on the floor is to sponsor the Rotary Club Annual Golf Tournament in the amount of $1,000. I will ask the clerk to take a roll call vote.
Your vote is open.
Okay, that passes unanimously 9-0. Okay. Up next, Early Childhood Partnership of Adams County, ECPAC sponsorship. I will invite Councilmember Dukes to introduce this item.
Thank you. This is a request for sponsorship to the Early Childhood Partnership with Adams County. As we know, early childhood, access to early childhood and providers in early childhood is a cornerstone of our community. And so this is an opportunity to work with the organization to provide a $2,500 sponsorship for their annual breakfast.
Councilmember Kim, any questions?
No questions, just for willing a second.
All right. Okay, is that your motion, Councilmember Dukes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Yes, I'd like to make a motion to provide sponsorship in the amount of $2,500 to Early Childhood Partnership of Adams County.
Thank you. Councilmember Kim.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Motion on the floor is to sponsor ECPAC Partner Breakfast in the amount of $2,500, which is Early Childhood Partnership of Adams County. I will ask the clerk to take a roll call vote.
Your vote is open.
Passes unanimously. Okay, use and abandonment of shopping carts at public right of way. I'll also invite Councilmember Dukes to introduce this item.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a request to create a draft ordinance. As we all know, we've had a number of conversations around ensuring all parts of the city are clean, safe, and welcoming spaces for all residents to participate in it. A part of the conversation was the use of shopping carts that are currently used and abandoned in public right-of-way. And so this is a motion to direct city staff to draft an ordinance to be approved at first reading at reducing the use of abandoning of shopping carts in public right-of-ways as a part of our broader effort to maintain clean, safe, and welcome public spaces, improve our community appearance, and encourage the continued development of our community. That language is you can find that language specifically in our strategic plan from the city. The next piece of this ordinance is the provision saying we prohibit the unauthorized removal and use of shopping carts from private businesses' property, prohibit the storage and abandonment of shopping carts in public right-of-ways, including sidewalks, streets, parks, trails, and other public areas. And the last piece of this is offer outreach and connections to services for individuals found with or using shopping carts in public right-of-way. This is a part of a humane service and being solution-oriented approach, just in case that some of the individuals with these shopping carts may need additional support.
Okay,
So that's the motion.
okay. Is there a second? Councilmember Darrow.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Noble.
Thank you very much. That's a very detailed motion. Does that fall in the category of directive, or would it limit you, or is it helpful to you to get that much instruction?
So I think the city attorney and I are going to tag team this. I think, yes, the motion holistically gives a clear and supportive direction in addressing a dynamic situation within our rights of ways, parks, trails, and so forth. I think there is a portion of the motion with respect to providing services that is more programmatic based. That is definitely a policy conversation that we can share with respect to the support that we provide, the potential support we can provide, and what that may look like in future actions having to come back to the city council if there's a need for additional funding or support or resources. That'll be a step that will be done in parallel, but it's not something that we've typically have included as part of our ordinances that come back to you. So that would be just one wrinkle I would share with you all about the provisions of services that's a part of that motion, that's more in parallel and something that we probably have a future engaged conversation as we think about what those services are within the city in partnership with others and the costs associated with that. But Lee, you may, or City Attorney, you may have something as well to share.
Yeah, I think, I look at the language in the notice council business item, and just to be clear, we have under Chapter 6, under the specified nuisances, Article 1, we already have an abandoned shopping cart ordinance, so it does currently prohibit the unauthorized removal and use of shopping carts from private business property, so we would not revise that provision. The amendment to the CCRMC would be in that section, and we would include the prohibition of the storage, use, or abandonment of shopping carts on public rights of ways and in parks. We do have that. My office has already drafted that ordinance in preparation of the study session, so that will not be a big lift. I think on the third piece, which the city manager just alluded to, the outreach piece, my recommendation would be to not have that live in the ordinance itself. That's a programmatic sort of outreach perspective that the city manager and his office could create a program. I don't think it needs to live in the ordinance itself, because basically what you would be doing is obligating the city to offer this service.
Okay, then my follow-up question, since I knew that an ordinance was already on the books regarding shopping carts, that was going to be my second question. How do we make this dovetail then? And I can offer an amendment to Councilmember Dukes so that it all works together.
It's a good question. So I think I'm looking at all three of the sections, right? So proposed ordinance should include provisions to prohibit the unauthorized removal and use of shopping carts. I read that as, I think that's okay to continue to have in the motion. That's to ensure that we don't take it out. To prohibit the storage or abandonment of shopping carts in public rights of way. I think that's appropriate to include in the motion as well. That helps give us guidance to add that additional provision in the code. And then as it relates to the offer, outreach, and connections to services, again, it's up to council. My recommendation would be to take that out of the motion and have that be a programmatic opportunity through the city manager's office. But again, I think that's ultimately up to council. So to answer your question directly, it would be that third piece that if council was amenable to an amendment, it would be that.
Okay, I know that it was of concern to all the council members, what it would mean to the homeless who do make use of the shopping carts that they find abandoned on the street. And so I won't make a motion on that, but for an amendment, but if someone else chooses to, I won't oppose it.
All right, well, I just want to restate the motion that I have. The extra things are not in this motion. So the motion on the floor is to direct city staff to draft an ordinance aimed at reducing the use and abandonment of shopping carts in the public right of way. Councilmember Dukes.
No, the motion that's on the floor is the one I read within council communication. I do want to offer a friendly amendment to the motion. The friendly amendment would be to strike the offer, outreach, and connections. My intent for that language was to dovetail the stuff we already do. As we know, we talked about a camping ordinance earlier this year where we said it was required to provide services, and we removed that out of there. Rather, this is a compromise to say offer services. But I think, I mean, take your guidance on this is a programmatic piece that we can strike. So my motion will be to have a friendly amendment to strike the third bullet within offer, outreach, and connections to services. It creates more confusion, and the intent was not to do that. It was more to say the stuff we already do, but that lives in policy. I understand that it's not where we want to go. So I like to strike that last bullet as a friendly amendment. But to the body, because I put a motion together, so now it's at the body. Yeah, second has to agree. Oh, that's right.
Councilmember Dara.
I'm agreeable.
Okay, before I move forward, like I said, that's not what's in the motion, so we got to make sure when someone has during notice of council business, that motion is in there. Because that's not what I have, so. But that's the motion on the floor.
Sorry, point of information. I'm a little confused because this wasn't notice council business as a communication.
I think I understand the issue. So you have a script, the mayor has a script, and under the second subsection of the second bullet, there's a statement that the motion is on the floor to ... and that does not correlate with the council communication. That is the formal motion that Councilmember Dukes made.
Yes. Okay, thank you. All right, any discussion? All right. Ready for the vote?
Your vote is open.
Okay, passes unanimously, 9-0. All right, communication with the new Zeroscape codes. I'll invite Councilmember Dukes to introduce this item.
Thank you, Mayor. This motion, just the context, this is a follow-up to us approving the Zeroscape ordinance and having to be live in Muni Code over the last couple of months. This is the continual effort to inform our community about this change and hopefully provide some clear guidance and recommendations for the community to be a part of it. I'll read the motion, but I also offer if Mayor Pro Tem Noble has any other additional comments you'd like to make before we vote. But the motion here is to direct city staff to develop and implement a simple, accessible communication plan to inform residents about the city's new Zeroscape code. The plan should include multiple outreach methods such as the city website, social media, community events to be designed to raise awareness, clarify any key changes, and to encourage water-wise practices among homeowners, HOA, and landscaping professionals.
Mayor Pro Tem Noble.
I'll second that.
Okay. Let me get the right exact language here since it's not on my script. All right, the motion on the floor to direct city staff to develop and implement a simple, accessible communication plan to inform residents about the city's new Zeroscape code. The plan should include multiple outreach methods such as the city's website, social media, community events to be designed to raise awareness, clarify key changes, and encourage water-wise practices among homeowners and HOAs and landscaping professionals. That's the motion on the floor. Last clerk, take a roll call vote. Thank you.
Your vote is open.
Councilmember Chacon, did you have a question? Did you have this? No, okay. All right. Mayor Pro Tem did. Yeah. You seconded, right? Yeah. All right, it passed unanimously, 9. All right. On to capital investment program. CIP updates, draft in 2026 to 2030 CIP. I will invite Jason Rogers, City Manager, to introduce this item.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. What you have before you today is our 5-year CIP, which we prepare every summer. The first year of that CIP is being included as part of the annual budget. So that would be for the upcoming year of 2026 for your adoption. You will receive a presentation from our finance staff, Mr. Christopher Johnson, but also here to help with the facilitation of your conversation is your facilitator, Ms. Heather Bergman from Peak Facilitation. So after the brief presentation, we will open the floor to discussion and facilitation by Ms. Bergman. But thank you for having us here this evening. And Mr. Johnson, I turn over the floor to you, sir.
Appreciate it, and thank you, Jason, or City Manager Rogers. It's a formal setting. I should be formal. Just waiting a second for the presentation to pop up here.
Microsoft Office asks you to log in at the most inopportune time. Sorry about that.
Hunter just left.
You could use that.
My girlfriend is.
We'll take a 5-minute break, and let you guys reset that. Maybe you can unplug the HMI. Thank you for making those changes to keep our meeting in line. Sometimes that happens. All right, I'm gonna give these guys another minute here.
Oh, I saw what I was doing. It was blue because I was clicking on the property.
Okay.
I made it blue. Duh. Are you waiting to resume?
Yeah, I got 7 seconds.
Is it ready to go? Grananelli, people.
All right, we can proceed.
All right. Sorry for the quick technology pause. At least it allows me to properly thank City Manager Rogers, Mayor, and City Council for allowing me to present in front of you today. Today, we are doing our initial foray into the 2026 and to 2030 capital investment program. Just a general overview of the capital investment program, what goes on behind the scenes. Earlier the year, we formed a CIP process team that involved a lot of subject matter experts throughout the city, including members from community development, public works, parks and rec, and finance to start going over the projects. We have been operating on a project categorization for the past couple of years. When we rebranded to the CIP, we worked to first categorize, then prioritize and score the projects to make a recommendation to you. We applied to all charter provisions, and then every year we update the first year of the 5-year CIP as part of the 2026 budget adoption. Also today, we will take a look at some of the funding sources and how they are used throughout the CIP. Just quick reminder of the timeline. The CIP team first started meeting in March to go over the initial plan to prioritize and fund these projects. In April, we do what is called the project information session. Since there's a lot of information on all these projects, we get together, and that's a time where staff can ask the subject matter experts about any question to help them score, help them understand the importance of a project and why it might be up for funding. In May, we get together again and talk about funding availability and actually take the time to score each of the project based on our criteria. In June, we have our final meeting where we go over the scoring and make sure everything makes sense. Sometimes the project will score a little higher, but a subject matter expert might say, this project could actually wait a year. This one's a little more important. So we try to make sure that everything makes sense before we bring a recommendation to you, which brings us to today. Just a quick reminder on our project categorization. We have 2 main subtypes we break down into, which are capital maintenance and capital improvement projects. The capital maintenance have two lower groups, which we break down to our 1A preventative maintenance. These are our annual recurring capital maintenance projects that help us maintain baseline level of service, help us to avoid considerable deferred costs, and help us avoid any unplanned downtime by making sure we're taking care of what we already have. And then there's the other subset of that is our 1B periodic maintenance, which is less frequent, non-annual capital maintenance. A lot of times these will have a longer useful life. If you look through our projects this year, a lot of those are building maintenance needs. So the difference between capital maintenance and a capital investment is capital maintenance maintains what we currently have, whereas a capital improvement project expands capacity or provides a brand new capital asset to the city. I want to take a look at our 1A projects and how they're projected through the 5 years. These are the projects that are not scored and go directly into the capital investment program. As you can see in there, Most of these are road-based, and then we also have a Parks and Recreation maintenance program. This year, we had a couple new ones added in, which were the pedestrian crossing improvements and the 50/50 sidewalk program. We also had some additional bumps to take care of some needs. We added a core city sidewalks need of $1 million to help unplug the backlog there, as well as adding some traffic calming funding to help some park traffic calming needs. CIP has a number of dedicated funding sources that work to fund these projects. The top two are the city's own money in the general fund, and then some of the next groups are pass-through dollars that come from either the state or the county. Either could be based on sales tax, mill levies, which is property tax, or even conservation trust is based on lottery funding. There's other restricted funding sources like impact fees and water rights that can only be used for specific things, as well as we can always look at funding within the city, like the internal service funds. That is all city money of general fund dollars. So if we decide there is an excess balance there, we can transfer that back for other city needs. I like this slide because it kind of breaks down how the funding sources, some of them, the top left, live within the capital expenditures funds, like highway user tax. Those are deposited directly in the fund, while others, including either the general fund, some of those special revenue or non-major funds like conservation trust or solid waste, require transfer to get into the capital expenditures fund. If you look at the top right, we have a policy of taking our 2025 beginning fund balance, less the amounts used for 25 CIP, and then we only look to allocate 50% of 2026 projected revenues. And we do this for a reason that if the revenues ever came in short, rather than having to pull money from a project, we could look to adjust in the following year. This slide shows how all the CIP dedicated sources came into the fund and shows what we have left after considering our 1A projects. As you can see, we had to use all of the parks and open space funding to get the parks maintenance funded this year. And with our transportation and road restricted funding, we ended up with just over 1.3 million, or just shy of 1.4 million, I should say, in transportation and road restricted funding. The CIP team gets together to score the projects, and we use these main criteria. If you look at obligations or commitments, generally that's legal commitment or an obligation made to another government where we have already said we are going to pay the money. We want to make sure we are following the legal and meeting our obligations as a city. We try to prioritize projects where there might be additional revenue, either working with another jurisdiction or by securing a grant. And then otherwise we look at public safety, how quick a project can get going, what would be the cost of the deferral to the city. We also look to make sure we are being equitable across the city and making sure every area is being handled, and we look at the impact on the operations budget. If a project can help us lower our operation costs by not needing to be maintained as much or need as much work, it can be an overall positive benefit to the city. Back in March, we had an initial thought exercise that helped lay down some early priorities for CIP projects. They were broken down to CIP roads and the other projects you see up on the screen. For the police substation, because it's using a different funding method and it has its own slot on an upcoming council meeting, we were focused for the CIP team on the other category of priority areas. The other thing it's good to reminder is our fund balance to see where we started 2025. If you take out the three different colors, which the purple being non-spendable, the reddish color being restricted, and then our reserve policies, we ended up with an unassigned general fund balance of just over 56 million at the start of the year, with amounts used to balance the 25 budget, as well as some council directed ordinances using general fund dollars. We had a remaining unassigned fund balance of just over 45 million. If you see that aerial from one of the restricted, that's our 2K capital outlay and operations fund. So we took that beginning balance, took out what we used for 2025 budget, and left us with 9.1 million. We used a combination of all three of the last slides, our project categorization, what we viewed as initial council priorities, as well as available fund balance to provide three funding options to council. The first one would be our staff recommendation if we were forced to put one up there today. And then we also wanted to look at some conservative option and maybe more aggressive option to look at how much general fund balance would needed to fund different items. In our funding option one, which is our staff recommendation, we have all 1A projects, as well as ADA ramp replacements, East 88th, Segment B, lighting safety improvements, as well as some facility projects. These would require 2.4 in general fund, as well as 6.4 in 2K fund balance to fund all these projects. To look at a more conservative option to maintain general fund balance, we pulled that back to just funding our 1A projects, as well as ADA ramp replacements, lighting improvements, and some needed facility maintenance projects. And then if we were going to get more aggressive by adding more projects to the list, we would look at all the same projects from that first option, except we added Fairfax drainage improvements, as well as some more, a few more CIP roads. So this slide shows how we broke down the three different options with different priority areas. You can see CIP roads is one of the bigger slices of the pie when we add when we have the 88th in there. In the conservative option where we pulled 88th out, it goes pretty small. That's just the nature of how expensive those projects are. And then road maintenance in all three remains the same as we have maintained the 1A projects in all three options. This is just some reminders of our policy on projects that are not selected for the 5-year program. We have been tracking those on our Horizon projects list. The one that shows up on the screen is based on option one, but that would change if we decided to do different projects. If we decided to pull back a little bit, it would get a little longer. If we decided to get a little more aggressive, it could get a little smaller. And then I wanted to remind everybody about the CIP dashboard that is live now. I know they're still making some edits and corrections to things that have gone on, but I was playing around in there the other day and I was pretty impressed at how it came across and was able to find the information I was looking for. And this all leads to the discussion. None of this is set in stone. We're very early in the process. So the discussion item that Heather will lead is just going to be, what would our ideal CIP package look like? And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Heather.
Up there. Oh. Cheryl's like, push this. I was like, I know. And then I totally pushed the wrong button. Apparently I don't know. Good evening, council. Mayor Douglas, how do you want to proceed with this? You want me to call on folks? Do you want to call on folks? I don't want to step on your toes.
We have a list up here with names, so do you have a presentation or so?
I don't have a presentation, but I thought we could just talk a little bit about what we're hoping to accomplish tonight before we jump into it.
Okay.
Is that all right? All right.
Sure. Mayor Pro Tem Noble.
Okay, so I looked through the materials and I have 3 sets of documents that I printed out that I had reviewed. One was the draft 5-year capital investment program requests. Another was called 2026 Capital Investment Program Scored Project Rankings. And the third one was Capital Investment Program Current Projects List. But none of the 3 are called Draft Horizon Projects List. So the first items listed on Draft Horizons Project List are not the first items on any of the documents I printed out.
City Manager Rogers. I see you thinking over there.
Definitely thinking, Mayor. So I'm going to continue to think and then I'll respond as I look at the documents.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, so there were a lot of documents attached to the agenda item. So I went through them and I thought I pulled the right ones, but I don't see this one attached. Drainage Master Plan, East 64th, Old Mill Road, traffic signals, central upgrades, that kind of thing. I don't see a correlation with what I'm looking at any of the three documents I printed out.
Yeah, on the Verizon's project list, a lot of those are old projects that we could get you a project page for, if that's what you're asking.
No, I'm asking for the list.
Yeah.
Is it an attachment to the agenda item?
Yes, ma'am. So if you look at the agenda, right, you have council communication, presentation, draft 2026, 2030 CIP, project pages, CIP scored project rankings, and then you have the draft Horizons project list, which you'll see what's also a slide in the presentation, but also an independent attachment for you all to review, and that's the 63 projects in which Chris was speaking to.
Okay, so which one were we supposed to be using tonight
So
for discussion?
Yeah, I think what you have before you is that you have the attachments that are a combination for your review, discussion, review, and use. I think to Chris's point, the draft Horizon project list is a combination of previous year's discussion of potential projects, as well as ones that have been identified by staff for need with respect to certain needs that they have looked at from a criteria basis or in support of longer range visions or plans. And that will ultimately always be updated as we go over year. But the complement of materials are for you to use in its totality to guide the discussion on what is the right package based off of what we have on deck, Horizon, as well as what we have already currently planned, which is that last attachment, the current project status list, which gives you everything underneath the sun of what we have previously approved as far as the CIP that is still active, ongoing. And then the Horizon list is, shows what we're proposing for this year plus going forward. So once again, they all serve a purpose for your discussion tonight when you're thinking about what that final list for us to bring back during the budget workshop.
Okay, well, the good news is that the draft Horizons project list includes widening of 112th. And there's actually an amount of money attached to it, which is 19 million. It's not on the other documents, but it is on the draft Horizons project list. So it's something that city councils have talked about before. And we have recently talked about it at the mayor's suggestion. And so that would be a good one to transfer over.
So just so I understand what you're saying, Mayor Pro Tem, your suggestion would be to add that project to the CIP for 2026.
Correct.
Okay. As we're going through, folks, love to hear your thoughts on some of these other suggestions as we go along. At the end of our time together, what we're hoping to get to is some general convergence around what you would like staff to bring back to you as a CIP package in August. So again, you have three options. So you could say, and Mayor Pro Tem, I'll come back to you on this one. You could say, would like to add 112th to which package, to all the packages, whatever, however that resonates with you. Does that make sense?
I guess my time is still counting down. I suspect.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take your time.
No, that's all right. No, they probably didn't get it started right when I started speaking, correct? Yeah, I figured that. Okay, but I'm going to take advantage of that and ask another question, which is option 1, option 2, option 3. Is there a reason we can't go with the most expensive option? Is there a financial reason we can't choose that one?
City Manager Rogers?
Yeah, I'll tackle that one. I think that's a great question, Mayor Pro Tem. And the reason why we presented the options as why we provided that is, while we could, there's obviously an impact in going with the most aggressive. And the one way that I look at it is that by adding a project, it dilutes the economic opportunities for us to be able to continue addressing existing projects or existing needs. So it gets back down to a question of thinking about the sources that we have, thinking about the overall budget implications of what we have to shift from our 2K fund balance and reserves, as well as the general fund to continue with adding more projects. And in doing such, it also then leads to a capacity issue of, are we going to be able to accomplish those additional projects? So it's really thinking about, how do we continue to prioritize projects? How do we do projects that are in a moderation from a fiduciary responsibility about what makes the most impact, as well as what we can deliver for the community that's tangible? And I think the aggressive shows, yes, it's an additional 2.6 to 2.8 on top of that, and the staff recommended, but it's also looking at that expertise that our staff has put into, that creates a foundation that we can continue to build off of with our CIP, but also gives us short, I'll call it quick wins and real life wins for our community.
Well, deliverance is good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dukes.
Thank you. Just looking at the list, well, what I'm understanding is the Horizon project list is like a wish list, $432 million of potential projects that we don't have funding for. Correct? This is list that's been accumulated throughout a number of years, right? A collection number of ideas, right?
Yes.
And then when we look at the funding comparison, the 20 million in option one, those are projects that we have some funding for, different stages. And your question here is around, what's the ideal package for the CIP? For me, I would love to be able to accomplish what we can in a short amount of time that we can accomplish that. What that means is that if there's longer projects, I know 112th is a great example where ideally folks want 112th to be opened, but on the scale of projects complexity of that might be a 4-year project, right? Because of what you shared in information. So I wouldn't want to put that on the CIP, bump into a thing like Chambers Road or a police substation or something that's really down the horizon. However, I would want to make sure we capture that idea, which is the horizon list, right? I think the challenge for us as a body moving forward is that if we continue to add to this horizon project list, we're not going to get things done, right? It's like, how do we focus, like deers in the headlights, like bullseye on things we can get done within 2 to 3 years? What I value about the prior council, when I think Sean Ford was the mayor, is when we talked about the 5 projects in 5 years, that was a concentrated effort to get things done. And so I'd love to figure out what's our 5 projects, what's our 2 projects, so that we can show accomplishments on our CIP, because I think that was a great strategy that ultimately yielded some amazing results for our community.
City Manager Rogers.
Thank you for that, Mayor. I think one of the things when we were also thinking about this list that was being pulled together was going back to what was woven into the strategic plan, from thinking about leveraging our resources, both from an operations, from a strategy, and as far as the capacity. And one of those things was getting back to the basics, really focusing on the basics extremely well, getting back to delivering on the core competencies. And a lot of that falls under categorization 1A, right? When you think about a traffic signal installation around 117th and Chambers, or Chambers and Heartland, those are tangible wins that also not only improve the flow of traffic and the movement of vehicles and pedestrians in a safe environment, it also helps to help give a tangible benefit that public safety is changing and that the concerns have been heard. So there's been a lot of focus of trying to get back into that, what we call 70-20-10 perspective, and focusing a lot of the effort in that 70, which is going to impact the day-to-day lives. When you talk about the 5 projects, we have a significant number of large, meaningful, landscape shifting projects already currently underway that are still in need of funding. 88th Avenue Widening's one, 120th and 85. That, once again, as we continue that project, it goes back to that dilution of the economic opportunity that we're looking at by adding more to our funding sources and resources. So I would say, looking at what's presented to you and remaining vigilant on what we have, so ultimately those projects will come to completion, and those projects will be more midterm to longer term wins that will be representative in our community and will be able to be a benefit to them.
Thank you for explaining that. And I guess I will kind of just follow up with that. What I like to see is that we have our short-term wins that are around public safety and support that immediately impact our residents today. But then we have, maybe it's not 5, maybe it's 3 or 4 big projects that we can see on the horizon versus 60 right now, because it's hard to do both. But what our residents that are currently living across our city want is improved roads, improved safety, traffic signals, and then opportunities for amenities. And so if we can figure that balance out, that's what I'll look for in the CIP. What I wouldn't want to do is keep adding to our CIP list without an intentional approach or thoughtfulness for us as a council. Like, does this fall in the short term? Short term could be 1 or 2 years. Does this fall into long term? Versus like just everything.
Councilmember Dukes, just a clarifying question for me. For that balance that you're looking for of sort of meaningful change for the community, near-term wins, longer-term projects, is there one of these funding options that sort of captures that better?
You go ahead and answer.
I think with the staff's recommendation, what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, that's the option 1.
Uh-huh.
That's the balance of both.
Okay.
So.
Cool. Thanks.
Any other council members? Questions at this time? So Heather, just so that you know, a couple weeks ago, I moved forward 112th Potomac from Chambers to Potomac,
Okay.
and to bring that forward as a CIP project. It won't probably be what, 1st November, we'll hear back as far as what the cost is going to be, cost analysis and all that. This will be a part of a feasibility study. So I put that on going forward as one of the projects because of the need of the community, and then the fact that federally, those funds for Chambers widening, some of that fund is not going to go forward in this round of administration. So you weren't here for that. So that was already taken off the list. My question I have here, I look at this horizon list and all that, and some of these projects, there's one on here. Let's see. I'll go with, first one is Old Mill Road. Now, is that something that we could ask Dr. Cog to put that on their list? Because they have a 10-year implementation plan. And right now they're going to have 5 new commissioners are being selected for those positions. So we're going to have new eyes on that 10-year plan. So I was wondering if we could see if we can put number 2, Old Mill Road, which is $11.25 million. And then also number 14, which is 96th Avenue, from 96th Avenue widening down to Eagle Creek Parkway. So would it be Chambers Road all the way down to Eagle Creek Parkway? If that could be put towards Dr. Cog's 10-year plan. And then number 5 is CDOT York Bridge replacement. Now, is that part of the I-270 expansion? So I thought they were going to replace that bridge, the York Street Bridge.
I'd have to double check with Public Works to see whether or not that bridge in and of itself is a part. I don't believe it to be. Obviously, we know the bridge that of note as part of the I-270 project is the 60th Avenue Bridge. But can confirm for you whether or not that. But you had made reference to 2 other projects, Mayor.
Yes.
If you don't mind just restating that, I was trying to track it on the list.
Sure. It's number 2, Old Mill Road for $11,250,000. And number 14, Dr. Cog for Chambers expansion of 96 from Chambers Road down to Eagle Creek Parkway.
So to those 2 questions, I think with Old Mill Road, 64th Avenue, where I'd love to be able to get to, and I think that's why Heather's here, is to be able to get whether it's a package for the CIP for this year, but or guidance and direction from the council's priorities for seeking external funding sources is also something I think collectively would help us.
Sure.
Because not all of these potential projects, such as the East 64th Avenue or Old Mill Road project, while it could be submitted for DRCOG, is going to make a significant impact to benefit them from the regionality. While it, yes, plays into 85-6, 96th Avenue has regionality that connects multiple municipalities because of the ecosystem and the backbone structure that it provides, that we may have a better chance for that. So I think, tonight, while you're thinking about what the package looks like for option 1, 2, 3, or therefore modified, what is also council's priorities for us to be working on alternative funding sources that obviously aren't going to fill the entire gap, but can help close that to where a different evaluation at a future time, where we get to that tipping point, maybe pulls it from a horizon list to on deck, or if we're not successful, it stays on that horizon list. But I think getting a list would be collectively helpful for me and my staff thinking about what are your priorities, 3, 4, or 5 for alternative funding sources that doesn't pull away from the short tangible wins while also building towards those longer term successes on projects that we already currently have in the pipeline.
Okay, to pull another one off for that, for it help with funding would be number 15, South Platte Sand Creek Bank Civilization, because that belongs to CDOT. I learned that when we were doing the I-270 expansion. That corridor there, as far as operation and maintenance and future stabilization of that wall, falls under CDOT. That should be their responsibility, not the city. And that came directly from them.
We can definitely go back out and once again, I think if these are lists, we can have to kind of walk that through with what that priority is. And I think that will help us. I would say in past discussions where collectively, if we have 9 separate voices that have 4 or 5 separate projects, that's a lot of alternative work that once again takes us from core competencies that we're trying to accomplish with the CIP. And I think this, obviously, with the landscape and the shift that we're seeing with the federal government, is having a trickle-down effect at the state level to where some of what was maybe 100% a responsibility or funding source is now starting to become 80-20, 70-30, 50-50 in worst-case scenarios. Or if the city wants to see this done, we're more than willing to let you take on that responsibility and work through the authority and the rights to be able to operate within our rights of way. So it's still a little bit of a nuanced conversation. But once again, I think if there's a little bit more strategic direction for us, that will help us to think about how to focus and to move forward with that.
Okay, thank you.
So where I'd love for us to get tonight is y'all providing some general sense, and we're talking about counting noses with motions and such. Hey, staff, please bring us back a CIP that is based on funding option number whatever, with the addition of this project and that project, or funding number whatever else, with the subtraction of that project and the addition of this other thing instead, so that staff knows the work that you want them to do. So I hear 4 projects that we maybe want to talk a little bit more about, and love to know if anyone else on council wants to visit about something in addition to these. I'd welcome just some clarity. Do we not need to talk about 112th anymore?
I think it's probably worth a discussion. I know that the mayor shared that we have a feasibility study that we're going to be bringing back in October, November.
Right, heard that.
In that feasibility study, we'll be making a recommendation on whether to advance or not, or what can be advanced within a reasonable time frame to be able to bring a community benefit.
Sure.
So that may or may not necessarily align with the discussion that I think I've heard, which not just by the mayor, but by Councilmember Dukes, that the 4-year timeframe may not align with what we're trying to accomplish in the near term. So I think trying to get that clarity about if they want to move forward, the feasibility analysis is going to have to weigh in on that. And until such, we're going to have that as kind of a question mark because it won't be 19, 20 million in 2026. It would have to look at it as a coordinated funding scenario over the course of 26 to 30. And what does that look like? But we have to get past that first Rubicon of, is this feasible or not, with all partners involved.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right, council, other thoughts on either a funding package that appeals to you more than the others, or projects that you would like to see added to or removed from any of these packages based on your own vision for the CIP? Again, choices are going with staff's recommendation. You could say, wow, that seems like a lot of projects given all the uncertainty. Maybe we'll do fewer. I recommend removing this city such one for this city such reason. Option 3 is, hey, we got a community that needs things. Let's get after it. And that's that option 3. And if you wanted to add or subtract or swap, whatever there. So love to hear some new voices that I haven't heard already. Who's got some thoughts for me today?
Councilmember Teeter.
Yay.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards option number 3.
Okay.
And originally I was for that 112th, getting things done up there, but we need to get back in line and get some of our core issues done and taken care of first. And then I believe the vote on that 112th was just to get a price on what it would take to fix it, is what we're interested in, so we can look at it in the future.
So you are inclined, sir, toward funding option 3 with no changes,
Yes,
and looking forward to learning more about 112th and making a determination about that one at a later time?
for future products.
Fantastic. Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Eeny, meeny, miny, do I have a mo?
Councilmember Madera.
Yeah, I also like funding option 3. Another one that I would be funding option 1. And rather than having those option 3 projects, increasing our project or our 1A projects to increase street maintenance, especially in the core city. I think there's so much road maintenance that we need to do. We're so behind on that I think that would be something that would make a big difference in, people's everyday lives, just seeing us go out there and address a lot of these issues. I mean, even Colorado Boulevard, the patch that they just put in to take out the railroad tracks, it's almost worse than what the railroad tracks were before. So, just having someone go look at the condition of these roads. I know we had a motion a while back to, assess all the conditions of the roads, including county and CDOT roads that were in our right of way, and trying to work with them to get those fixed. I mean, 74th Avenue is atrocious. There's potholes the size of cars, literally as big around as a car, a good 4 to 5 inches deep, that people are driving in the middle, median, and on the shoulder to avoid. So there's a lot of opportunity to work with our partners. Look at Highway 85. Where else in Colorado do you see CDOT roads that are as poorly maintained, medians that are just dirt and, people driving over them to cross the medians? Like, there has to be something that we can do with CDOT to, even if it means bringing in our own funds to improve that, because that's a reflection on Commerce City, and not so much CDOT. Even though it's their road, when people drive through, they're like, that's Commerce City and it's terrible over there. You see some of these ruts from the trucks, they're a foot high in places. So, I think these are some things that I would like to see us fund and really be aggressive. Kind of to Councilmember Duke's point earlier, that focus that we had with 5 projects in 5 years, we need something similar to that, that we can really focus and say, this is what we're going to accomplish over the next 5 years, and we're not going to deviate from that until we get these done.
Is there an amount you have in mind for investing in that additional bit? Is it the value difference between the current option 1 and the current option 3? Would you invest that difference that looks to be what, 2.6 million?
Yeah, that would be a start.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, we can invest 30 million and we'd still be behind in our road
I
maintenance.
feel ya. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. You agree with that one? Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Kim.
I'll just say this, funding option 1 would probably be the most feasible one to go with. I think about if I want to go off-roading, I'll go on 74th Avenue towards Highway 76. Luckily, I have some Bilstein 5150 shocks on my truck, so hopefully that lasts for a little bit. I think we do have some, I always think about preventative maintenance and sustaining what we've got. If we can't do any of the two and we're starting new projects on top of that, then I do feel that some of the existing that we have now is eventually going to fall off. It's going to falter. You know, I do believe to Councilmember, you know, Dukes, to Madera, and of course with the mayor as well regarding finding other viable funding sources as well, such as CDOT to help pay would be ideal. If that is doable. But I think want to see us to be able to basically figure out how do we, you know, let's maintain what we got now. Let's make sure that we take care of that and then add in a few other small projects. And then I think to what Councilmember Madera said, you know, and even Councilmember Dukes, we say, here's our top 5 that we're going to work on for the next 5 years and move on from there. That's all.
So which funding option does that lead you to? Because none of them have only 5 projects.
I understand that, right? So I look at it, and if I'm forced into an option, and I'm not saying that I'll tell you what, my biggest thing is more so when I think about the city, I think about the core city. Core city is my biggest thing, and I look at that. I look at the areas. I look at, for example, Derby. I look at the like I mentioned before, 74th, Brighton Boulevard, Colorado. I mean, just all of these different roads that are within our city, not necessarily within our control.
Sure.
But I'd like to see some type of revitalization that occurs within the core of our city. And I think in this case, then option 1, granted, yes, we do in option 1 as well. We have the East 88 segment, 96th Avenue, stuff like that, golf bridges, restrooms and all that. Sure, that's perfectly fine. The projects though, within 1A, I think what I saw is there's quite a few things that are in there that looks like it would fulfill that. So option 1.
As written, or do you like the idea of adding
Say
some
just
additional
as
funding?
written.
As
As written
written.
for now.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Chacon.
For me, I'm more comfortable with option 1, but I wanted to just ask a question for the golf restrooms. Why is that one above the Paradise Island building upgrade by 2? I think it's 1B, just because we always have an issue with Paradise Island every year. So I'm more curious about which one and why one should take priority over the other.
I think that came down to feasibility and cost. When we were looking at all the projects, that was something we were trying to keep in mind, what we could absolutely afford. And with another I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think that one was upwards to 6 or 9 million.
Yeah, it's like 6.3.
So just the feasibility of funding that is why we chose some of the smaller projects that could get done quickly that are in need of repair, like the restrooms and the bridges at the golf course.
Okay, that I still feel more comfortable with option 1, if that's the case. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Ford.
Thank you. You know, I have to agree with Councilmember Madera and with Councilmember Kim and Mr. Dukes. There's a lot of roads in the south that are failing greatly. And I know there's a difference between maintenance and what our capital improvements are. But Councilmember Madera's suggestions, yes, we need to have a robust discussion with CDOT to take care of some of these rights of ways that are not ours within our city. I think about probably the worst road in Commerce City, Ivy Street between 49th and 52nd. It's tough to make a call on getting that on the list because we had been seeing development plans for that parcel up there in that area. And I figured that a lot of that would get done as part of that development of that property. I don't know where we are in time with development of the property adjacent, where it would trigger some of those improvements. Of course, I don't want to spend a bunch of taxpayer dollars to fix a road that we're going to be able to have enhanced later because of development. But I also know that that road's getting into a position condition-wise where you're going to have to close it because we're going to start damaging people's vehicles. It's horrendous. So I'm an option one person at this time. I think we have to get back to the basics. We have to be able to separate maintenance and those things from CIP, and we have to continue to be able to maintain what we have. But there are some things that need done. I've brought it up for now, I think this is the third or fourth year. I'll bring it up again. Medians on Quebec Street from the high school to the north that are unimproved, just native grass. And then the one median on Quebec Street that is troublesome that I see is there by 56th Avenue. I want to know who owns it. I saw Commerce City mowing it, but it gets totally out of hand because it's kind of in that dead man's area. Is that Denver? Is that Commerce City? And to me, that's a maintenance issue. Shouldn't be tied to CIP. But I want to make sure, because of this discussion, it's triggering a lot of thoughts, that we focus on some of the basics and we start taking care of some of the maintenance and improvements that we need to for our residents so that we can then have opportunity for some bigger projects going forward. Because if you spend everything every year, you never build up enough to be able to deal with some of the big ticket items that we're going to have to deal with. So I'm with my colleagues and I'll lean towards option one.
Option one as written, or do you support the proposal to add an additional 2.6 million or so for more 1A projects?
I'll support it with the addition.
Okay, thank you, sir. Can I just go back to Councilmember Chacon? Heard that you were gravitating toward option one. Again, same question for you, as written, or do you like the idea of the additional investment there for 1A projects?
Additional investment.
Thank you, ma'am.
Councilmember Kim, he had to step out, so he'll be right back.
Okay.
City Manager Rogers.
I want to say I'm loving the conversation I'm hearing about CDOT. I think there's some real challenges that we are at the staff level experiencing with CDOT. Obviously, their funding from the federal government has been significantly impacted, where our commitments that previously were on projects were an 80-20 split, 80% CDOT, 20% city, are now evolving to mid-project, 50-50. We've had extremely robust conversations with CDOT as it pertains to Brighton Boulevard, 224, as well as 104th, with respect to maintenance upkeep. And quite honestly, what we continue to receive is that the priority of those streets are not one at the forefront of their minds. And we have those conversations consistently. We have it every 2 weeks. And I think I'm at a position where I need my counsel to appeal to the individuals that CDOT reports to in order to get that level of partnership and relationship so that we can make meaningful change to whether it's a road reconstruction project, pavement milling. But the reality is, unless there is an impact above the existing makeup of CDOT to have that change, it's going to be extremely difficult. And I think that's why I'd love to dive into that more with you at an appropriate time. But this is what will help us is having this conversation. So I just want to share some of the realities that my team and I are running into when it comes to that. More CDOT, not county, but it's a real impact for us on those roadways.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, when she spoke, she didn't give her priority. So.
I'm ready.
Thank you. I was asking questions.
All good. We got time.
Okay. I think what's important is that all three of the funding options include every 1A project, correct? So everything. So that would be pavement maintenance and pavement management, which is what everybody has been asking for, both north and south, bridge maintenance, concrete flat work, core city infrastructure, core city sidewalks, pedestrian crossing improvements, railroad crossing replacements, sidewalk connectivity, sidewalk 50/50 program, street lighting, street reconstruction, traffic calming, and traffic signal maintenance. Is that correct? That's on every option.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then my question is about wayfinding. Wayfinding has been floating out there for a while. Do we have status on that?
Yes, ma'am. That's been fully funded over the course of this year and next year.
Right.
With the CIP from 25 to 29. And we currently have that budgeted and appropriated for when you took action last year. So we're going through the final design, which also we're waiting on final approvals from CDOT because some of their signage for gateway entry, per se, 104th and so forth, we need to get that approval. We're anticipating construction to begin, Jim? Construction to begin Q3 of this year, Q4? Q4 with the hope that CDOT gives us thumbs up. And once that's done this year and next year, we will have installed the identified locations of those wayfinding in different types of signs.
Okay, and I see that the golf bridges and golf restrooms add up to just $400,000. So that's fairly minor. But I hope that in the future we can have a discussion about golf course expenses because the total on these lists is 10.375 million for what's required for maintenance. That excludes the 12, 13 million or more for the clubhouse itself, which would add up to some 25 million for the golf course, which is certainly an advantage for people who avail themselves of the golf course and Bison Grill. I can see that. Under one of the categories 2, just quickly before I say my choice, Bison Ridge Edition. What is that about? It is actually priced out. It's a number 2 level, but I'm curious what you were looking at on that for the Bison Ridge Edition. I think it's number 32, reference number 32 on draft. Oh, hello. Parks, Recreation, and Golf as we speak.
We got you an expert.
Okay, but I have to give my option first before you answer my question. So let me just do that. Mr. Rogers? Between option 1 and option 3, I can't really decipher a difference because you're doing all the 1A projects either way. So that's important. You're doing all the things that matter to people. And I personally can't tell between the two, option 1 and option 3, what's better or what's worse. So I am happy to leave it to the staff to decide whether to do 1 or 3, but I'd rather expend that money. And then the question that I asked about the Bison Ridge Edition.
Go first. So I can answer on the Bison Ridge Recreation Center additions. There's a couple things that are on there with that. The first one would be the addition to the aquatics area, adding an 8-lane lap pool to the aquatics area. The second one would be to add additional multi-purpose space off of the gymnasium area and office space. What this would account for would be to eventually add summer camp to Bison Ridge. It would also allow us to add additional adult programming to Bison Ridge by adding those multi-purpose rooms off the third gymnasium.
Yeah, adult programming also is very important because there isn't enough room for everything that people want.
Correct. And that's what would be great is these multi-purpose rooms would be a little bit smaller than the ones we have. We can use them for the summer camp kiddos in the summer and then for adult programming during the day and the rest of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Douglas.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to say that I am really happy that we are doing this because in the past, I feel like we haven't had clear direction. And so we were all over the place. And that resolves that. And so I'm really very glad to be doing this. And Heather, I'm very happy to have you as a part of this. And then,
Thank you, ma'am.
you know, the finance team, Teresa, and your folks doing all the hard legwork. And yes, I've been on community tours invited with CDOT as a member of the community to walk around. I walked up and down 74th on both sides. We have to remember that there are a lot of other jurisdictions that depend on 74th for their conveniences, but they don't expect to contribute. I also remember asking for tours that we all go over and look at that area over there so that we have a firsthand experience of what's actually going on over there. So yes, I'm looking for partnerships. I would rather have the partnerships than to put it all on the backs of our taxpayers when there are other projects. I'm curious about the rec center pool heaters. I know it's not that much. That's for both rec centers, correct? Or is for each? I just wondered if it was combined or if it's a duplicate price for each one.
My apologies. I stepped out real quick. What was your question? My apologies.
Yeah, the rec center pool heaters, I would believe that should have fallen under maintenance, but apparently it's not. So now it becomes a CIP project. I saw a price. Was that for both of them or is combined or is that for each one?
I'm going to have to recall on that and I can get back to you, but I believe it's for both of them combined.
Okay, I appreciate that.
And that one is categorized as a 1B periodic maintenance project. So it is a maintenance project, but it's just not needed every year.
Okay, and are all these options there for a 1 year and not 5? Is that correct? Or am I?
City Manager Rogers.
If you'll continue on, ma'am, I have a different point, Mayor, but
So could you answer that question though? Somebody, anybody?
Is it a 1-year project or a 5-year project? Is that your
Yeah.
question?
It was a
These-
1-year funding request, 540,000.
All right, so all of the options are for a 1 year. So I'm leaning towards option 1 with add-on and then, but not specifically for these, but I haven't done a deep enough dive to say what those would be. And then I am still thinking that we need to address this 112th. We kicked that can down the road for such a long time. I know it's in the north, but I think it would alleviate so much of the traffic of Chambers. I know that installing of the light or the lights is going to make a big difference on traffic back up there and safety. However, we really need to look at 112th, and it was open at one time. I know it's been closed for quite a while. I know that we said there were reasons why it's been closed, but it can't stay closed forever. Just can't. And so that's it, because I only have 25 seconds left. And but does that help?
That helps. I have a clarifying question on 112th that I'll ask here in a minute, but based on your comments, are you gravitating toward one of these funding options more than the others?
I can't say at this time, to be
Okay,
honest.
fair. Can I ask a question, Jason? Is there a version of the world where if there's a will of council to do so, you bring back some version of funding option 1, potentially with some additional dollars for 1A projects, and then later, after you do the feasibility assessment on 112th, you add some component of 112th into the package? Would there be enough money for that?
In phases, right? And
In
I
phases,
think
yeah,
that's
sure.
appropriate. You know, 112th is an example, right? We're having a conversation in the September timeframe around Chambers Road, this thing that we call Buckley Park, this thing that we also talk about as the PD substation in Northern Range. Those are all in some form or fashion underway. They are in some aspect, how do we continue to fund those over the course of 26 to 30? That will ultimately come from a parallel funding source, right? Unassigned general fund balance to close out like the PD substation, which was started in 24, 25, and has an account line for it, but also with Buckley Park, which is adjacent to the high school site, the future high school site. And we have all heard the community say, well, high school opens up, what's happening across the parking lot of it from the city perspective. So how do we plan for that? How do we start funding that? But we've already taken some initial direction of going through the design work and talking through that with you all. So there's projects that are underway, I think, to this 5 and 5, both in our core city as well as on our northern range, that ultimately we're going to come back around the horn in September, November timeframe to be thinking about that focus over the course of the next 5 years. Because when you think about the projects that we talk about, those are 2 to 4 years. So long story short, yes, 112 and some of these other projects that we have floating out here could collectively come to be that starting 5. I know I'm using a basketball term, but I think that gives things around the council as well as the community to galvanize themselves, as well as these 1A, 1B, and some of these other things that are more near-term, short-term, easy wins, quick wins, tangible delivery to the community while building to those bigger rocks.
So looking for a short answer on this one. If majority of council supports, again, option 1, they are not foreclosing work on 112th Avenue.
No.
Thank you. Okay. We can have it all, friends. It's just about timing. Yay. Okay. Councilmember Teeter, can I just come back to you for a quick minute? Now that you've heard your colleagues' thoughts, they generally seem to be gravitating towards some variation of funding option 1. You had expressed some enthusiasm for funding option 3. I'm wondering how you're feeling now based on the conversations.
I'm fine with option number 1. I just thought option 3 was better, and I'm good with 112th being a gravel road. Just open the damn thing up seasonally when the weather allows.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Douglas, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this now. If you're ready, sir.
Okay, thank you. Option 1, I was going to just to clarify, those 5 projects in 5 years wasn't just 5 projects, it was multiple projects. So we got probably like 9 or 10 projects were actually done in that time frame. It's just that with the voters, it was just 5 projects. So we actually did extra projects. We on-ramp to Pena, and 112 was part of that package, but we had a developer that said they weren't ready for that, so they got pulled off. So there was some discussion there. So that goes way back. I mean, we're talking 10 years now. So Option one. Yes, and then I also want to clarify too that the years past, including last year, the way the maintenance and operation came before us, we're just doing the budget workshop in September. It wasn't as it is now. We always talked about CIP projects, but we didn't include the maintenance because at that time, the different departments came forward and say, hey, this is what we want, what we're looking for, improvements and all that. And then last year we had concrete flat work and asphalt maintenance. And at that time I asked to add more money in there for make sure we could expand the opportunity when it came up. So I think this is better because it actually clarifies that we need to do both and not just focus on CIP. When it comes to capital improvement projects, it's also making sure we can maintain what we already have put in. And that's what was nice with the 2K. When that passed, it included operation and maintenance. So cost has been built in. And then if they need another snowplow or so on Tower Road, they can pull from 2K dollars as well as general fund to help that one go forward. But I'm for option one.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. So now I have this question about this additional potential investment. So going back to the Mayor Pro Tem's question, and maybe this is a Chris question. When we look at this little buddy here, what I heard the Mayor Pro Tem ask, excuse me if I'm paraphrasing incorrectly, what's the additional good things that we get in option 3? Like what's that brown, it looks like it's the brown bar there on top, is that right?
Yep.
And what do we get for that?
The main project we added to option 3 was the Fairfax Park drainage.
Okay, so then if council is gravitating toward option 1 with some of them identifying an interest in investing more money potentially in 1A projects. I also heard the Mayor Pro Tem say, but all of these have the current 1A list in them.
Yes.
If a majority of them were to say, give us option 1 with more investment in 1A, I assume you have more 1A projects that you could put that money toward?
There's street reconstruction projects. It could go to general pavement management. It could go in a lot of different directions. I'm hearing more pavement management, street reconstruction,
Okay,
so that's where we'd probably lean towards.
and you have those projects already evaluated against your criteria that you shared with us earlier?
Yeah, I know that Public Works has some street reconstruction projects. Ivy Street was on there that was close, so
Copy.
yeah, we can add. Yep.
Cool, thank you, sir. So then the question becomes, council, how many of you support this idea of the additional investment in 1A projects? I heard definitively from council members Madera and Duke, at Chacon and Ford, that you supported that, and also Councilmember Douglas, thank you, ma'am. Which gets you a majority, but wondering where the rest of you are. Councilmember Kim, you said as written without the additional. Do you stand by that, sir?
Councilmember Kim?
No, I would go ahead and say, I would probably say be part of that as well to state that I think the additions would
Okay,
suffice.
thank you. And Councilmember Teeter, now that you're on team funding option 1, how are you feeling about the additional potential investment in 1A projects?
I don't care.
I appreciate your flexibility. Mayor Pro Tem Noble, how about you?
That's a good question. And I want to ask about the Fairfax Park drainage. So Fairfax Park is a detention pond, right? It has it operates as both a park and a detention pond, is that correct?
Simple answer, yes. That
Oh,
is
okay.
it, yes.
So if nothing is done for the drainage, then does that mean it stays wetter? What is the consequence of not doing the Fairfax Park drainage if that's the only thing in particular that 3 has that 1 doesn't?
Yeah, great question. I think we're going to continue to see additional needed resources for continual maintenance and removal of sludge, debris, and so forth. And what really comes to mind is that you probably have a higher flooding risk, which can impact the general surrounding area if we have another 100-year flood event like what occurred in 2013. Once again, it's 100-year flood storms, so you would think you wouldn't see another one till 2113, but the world's a different place these days. So, and flood risk are real, just given what we've seen the last couple of years in some other locations in the city. So there's a balance there of weighing the cost to the community benefit, and that's why that was added to list 3. But
That seems pretty important for people to enjoy the park and experience quality of life and so forth down there. If we don't do the drainage, then it's likelier to flood.
I mean, there's some possibility we may be able to get matching funding from the Mile High Flood District and being able to look at that restoration project, but that's once again something that we would have to engage with them if we know that that's an added project. Whether or not, once again, added project to 1 or added project or keeping or moving with option 3. But there's some alternative funding sources that we may be able to pull for that project.
Well, I don't specifically represent the Fairfax Park area, so I will leave it to the council members who do represent that area to decide whether it's important or not, but it is something that makes me pause.
So where did that leave you in terms of your support for the additional 2.6 million for 1A projects?
Well, the 2.6 million is the Fairfax Park
Yes,
drainage.
ma'am. Uh-huh.
There you go. I am, as I said, there are people on this city council who are at large and people who represent that area specifically. I will follow their lead. I have expressed my concerns.
Copy that, ma'am. Thank you. Yep, Jason.
Manager Rogers?
I think it is important that we wouldn't be funding in one total year. It would be over the course of 26, 27 to get to that total amount of 4.5 million. So that's where you also see that $2.4 million change of cost from 1A to 1B, or funding option 1 to funding option 3, right? We're only looking at that 2.4 requested amount, not the total 4.5 million.
Got it.
Councilmember Dukes wants to respond to you.
I just wanted to respond. So my preference is option 3 with having the Fairfax Park and having the extra dollars for 2A or 1A. And that's what my understanding with Councilmember Madera's point was, that option 3 plus additional funding to get all these projects done in 1A. Was that correct? Is that
I misheard. I heard option 1 from Councilmember Madera.
option 3? Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was option 3 or 1 with the additional funding used for
Or 1.
pavement management in the core city. You know, both benefit the area, but yeah, Fairfax Park is definitely a need. It's a duck pond every time it rains. And then you have debris and sediment that come in and clog up the drainage. And, you know, I've seen public works people come in off duty to clear the gates so that the water can flow out and it doesn't flood and overfill. So it is definitely a need. But I'm agreeable to option 3 with additional funding for 1A projects.
So that's what I would love. Option 3 with additional funding for 1A projects. I think Fairfax Park has historically been the heart of the city. It goes back to having 4th of July fireworks back in the day. I would love to have this as a usable park without the worry of it flooding, without the worry of mosquitoes, without the worry of debris. I know that changes the dynamic and I respect that, but that's where I would want that. But so it's yes.
So thing one, thank you for correcting my math. It's 2.4 million. So now my question for you is it that same 2.4 million additional increment you'd want to see in an option 3 for additional 1A projects?
Yes.
Okay.
So my understanding is the full option 3 plus the $2 million for additional 1A projects.
Right. So the 23 million that's up here on the screen for option 3 plus an additional 2 million-ish for 1A.
Yes.
Copy that. Go ahead. Sorry, Jason.
So this raises a very good question and one I'd love to be able to get council's policy thought on, right? So you're looking at a total right now before adding that additional in some form of a transfer, whether it's general fund or 2K, to the amount of 11.4 million. By adding another 2, that's adding, right, we're up to 13 million. And with what we're talking about, because from a 1A and a 1B, right, I understand it's maintenance and periodic maintenance, but for lack of simplicity, a GFA responsibility, right? Anything over a certain dollar amount falls into our CIP project. We're now establishing a new norm. And in that new norm, that funding source that we're pulling from is one that we have to, right, look at for bigger projects to be able to kind of get through it. So when we start to add that, we're not adding resources or funding to it. Now, I share this is because it also gets back into a point, how do we afford ourselves as we continue to go on if we're creating a new norm about increasing pavement management, maintenance, or reconstruction? Not saying that we don't. I'm just thinking about the long-term financial implications because this is something that we're going to be dealing with year over year where bigger projects fall off. But the other aspect is, do we need to reevaluate where we want to be everything to everyone in our community? We may not be able to do that when we get to a certain point. And that's talking about trash here in the city, where if you think about it, we're adding another 2.4 million to that to be able to think about the electrification of our fleet. So going from what was 4.9 to 6.4. That also has implications when you think about that bigger picture about what we're pulling from that resource to be able to bridge these gaps. So there's got to be a relief in some respect from a budgetary sources for us to be able to maximize some of these other things that will give a benefit to the community.
So Heather, can you clarify with each council member what their option is? Option 1 with the addition, just like you did, just gets a clarification?
I sure can. I just want to go back, Jason, to what you just said, which is if council wants to add additional dollars, now we're looking at funding option 3. Well, just if I could paraphrase what you just said, I heard that money's going to come from somewhere. And that just means that money's not available for other things that might add different but potentially equal value to the community. Is that your point?
Yes.
Cool. All right. Sweet. Sir.
Just clarifying questions. So if we look at option 3, is there a way that we can, very similar to 112th, we ensure Fairfax does not get left behind in the next 3 to 5 years? Like, is there a hybrid discussion? And what I'm hearing is there may not be enough funding for all, or tell me if we're wrong, there's not enough funding right now for all Fairfax plus the additional dollars for the 1A projects. And what's the middle ground in that? What's the hybrid approach to that?
I think the hybrid approach is relying on regional partnership. One of that regional partnership may be, like I said, my high flood district. They have a program where you're able to do a 50-50 match. So there's opportunities to think about the scoping of Fairfax to where you were able to deliver that within the next 2 to 3 years, working with that partner on that 50% match so that we can actually then move that forward.
Okay. So the dollar amount today for Fairfax actually could decrease based on more conversations with regional partnerships. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct.
And so by voting for option 3, it still ensures that this is a priority, knowing that there'll be other funding sources like everything else. So if we think about the values around parks, maintenance, quality of life, and trails, right? These things in option 3 covers pretty much all of that.
Correct.
So I still stand with option 3. That's with additional dollars, knowing that you're gonna look at other funding as a possibility.
So right now on the score sheet, we have 6 for option 1.
Well, I did before we had this great new conversation, and I'd love to do as you just suggested, which is to hear from everybody again. And just to be clear, at the end of our time together, I will need someone to make a motion, and you will take a formal council vote. Y'all know I don't like this formality, but y'all are in a business meeting, so we gotta do that. So want to make sure everybody knows where everyone is before someone goes out on that limb and makes a motion. So starting with Councilmember Dukes, what I'm hearing is option 3 as written, except thing 1, additional 2-ish million for more 1A projects. And hey, staff, see if you can't chase down some additional partnership money to buy down the cost of Fairfax Park. Is that fair? Cool. All right. Eeny, meeny, miny, do you want to call on people or you want me to do?
Councilmember Dara.
Love it.
Yeah, so, you know, the way I see it with this additional investment in pavement management is we're a growing city and the need's only going to get bigger. And we're already so far behind that, you know, it's hard to see the breakout in the slides that we currently have. But, you know, one of the charts says 3.1 million for pavement management. So this would be increasing it, you know, 67%. And really making a dent this year that, you know, normally it would just follow the same cadence, right? And, you know, unless it's in your community, like you don't really notice it. So this could really help make a noticeable difference because the need is only going to grow for pavement management. And as far as Fairfax, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but we need to start doing some of the design work and some of the legwork in order to be able to even apply for some of these matching funds, correct?
Yes.
So by having that on the list, we can begin doing that preliminary work to go out and be able to get these funds, because otherwise, if we leave it up, we can't even apply for these grants and matching funds.
So perfect comment. So what I've asked Ms. Wilson to bring up is our actual 5-year CIP program. So that way you'll just not get the context of 2026, but you also get a bigger picture about, to your point, what does design look like? What does approvals look like over a handful of years? And that way, when thinking about funding option 3, it may be able to provide some additional context. So like what you see on item line number 14, right? If you were to go with option 3, it shows you the 2.4 million and then 2.1 to be able to bring that project full tilt. That 2.4 and 4.1 at 4.5, 2.25 of that could potentially be covered by my high flood district. To your point, we would spend this upcoming year investing a significant amount of engineering and design, which is around 6 to 8%. And then obviously that would then move itself into finalized plans to which you see that kind of 2.4. So ultimately then hopefully getting some funding in 2027 that would bring it to some form of project completion. But this is kind of shows you how we're breaking down and getting to the total project cost for a number of different things that had been identified and have continued to be identified in addition to that 1A, right? So carryovers from previous years of projects. The Chambers Road being an example of that, of how do we get to that 32 million, whereas the PD Northern Substation, while not on this list, is a conversation that we will be having with you all that would be coming from the unassigned, but not necessarily an annual appropriation through our CIP, even though it is a CIP program. So this gives you that comprehensive picture.
Yes.
So Councilmember Madera, are you, go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt, but I would like to make a recommendation after intently listening to all of you tonight. This is such a great conversation. But my recommendation would be to go with option 1, but add the additional 2 million for pavement management and additional 1A funding, and then allow staff to continue to work on regional partnerships around the CDOT projects, 112th, Fairfax drainage, and bring those back when the regional partnerships are more fully baked with hopefully some matching funding from those regional partners. So continue to work on those behind the scenes and bring those back when they're more fully baked and more is known. So for the time being, my personal recommendation would be to go with option 1, but add the additional 2 million for the 1A projects that you've been discussing for whatever it's worth.
All right, so
I'm still,
Council, you just heard that.
I'm still option 3 with the additional 2 million funding. Because I think we have to get that engineering done and the design work done to even get the match. So this puts it, on the clock and makes us do the work. Because if you come back with, well, we got to do the design work and it's going to cost this much money. And, so I say we just, get it done.
Okay, you just heard from the finance director. Councilmember Ford?
Yeah, I have some questions about some of the topics. Back in the 80s and early 90s, I was working in the Public Works Department, and Fairfax Park was flooding or holding water. And as it was designed to, because it was designed to hold water. We'd go out and would pump water over to a manhole into the stormwater system. Over the years, from the 90s to today, we have made a lot of improvements to Fairfax Park, to the drainage. I'm trying to wrap my head around this. Are we trying to make it to where Fairfax Park doesn't hold water? Because if that's the case, are we upsizing outfall pipes I'm just trying to wrap my head around the fact that, yeah, I know it floods. And I was a kid, we were on rubber rafts in Fairfax Park. But it was intended to flood. Monaco Park was intended to hold water in storm events. What are the improvements necessary to Fairfax? And what is the goal behind that? Is it to have a stream that runs through Fairfax and it doesn't fill up? Is it to have it hold water? I'm just trying to wrap my head around what are the intent behind the dollars to Fairfax from a safety standpoint on flooding for the neighborhood? If it is to take a detention pond / park, because it's a detention pond first, and turn it into a park / water feature with no detention, I need to know that. Monaco Park, in a manhole on the south end of Monaco Park in the sidewalk, we would have to drop in there and put boards in front. It holds 2x4s and it stops the flow of water into Monaco Park so that when it rained, we could dam it up and stop it from flooding. But it's intended to hold water. And I know it costs us money every time that we end up with water in those parks. Is this a safety issue, or is this we don't want to go in and clean it up after it floods because of what it was intended to be? I'm trying to get my head wrapped around that. And it goes right into 112. 112th was open for years and years and years. And then one year we had heavy rainfall and the creek came up enough that it flowed across 112th. And we never opened it again. I don't know why. I mean, can we not just go in, grade 112th and put signage up about not driving into the waterway if there's water flowing? I mean, I see that in other communities. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around where these big ticket dollars are going and what's the intent. Is it for safety improvements so that we don't flood a neighborhood? Or is it for maintaining the park as a park and no longer as a detention pond? Can we fix 112th to make it passable for residents to use without going into flyover bridges over the creek and everything else to where it's cost prohibitive? Because if there's a quick fix to make it passable and have people be able to utilize it, then we could justify going in and paving it and dealing with the creek piece of it over time, rather than it's got to be this huge project or nothing and it stays closed. Let's get it open like Councilmember Teeter said, if we can.
Yeah.
Fairfax, I need to know,
So-
what are we doing with Fairfax and why? Because over the years, I've been here a long time, 30 years, I bet we have done major improvements, 4 or 5 times on Fairfax. And what's wrong with it now to get it right?
Yeah.
Do we don't want it to hold water or do we want it to hold water?
City Manager Rogers?
Thank you, Mayor. So we don't plan on changing the stripes of that tiger. It's still going to be a drainage, a drainage for detention. We want to increase the efficiency of the outfall because 9 times out of 10, we're spending more and more of our time having to clean out the outfall so that it can work properly. So it falls then into a drainage reconstruction project. That drainage reconstruction project has then benefits to when dealing with those 100-year storms that could come through and cause a 2013 flood risk. But 9 times out of 10, we're improving the efficiency of the outfall because that outfall is at a state where it's not properly functioning on the day-to-day, and we're having to manually do so to get it to a place to address the flooding and maintain that flooding. That's partly why we would be moving forward with Fairfax. As to 112, just up to 2 weeks ago, going out and grading and laying asphalt, laying gravel wasn't going to sufficiently allow us to be able to open the road because it was that washed out, it was that muddy that even equipment to be able to perfect or to perform the work necessary to get it open would have been a waste of money and time and effort by staff resources. Now, we've been fortunate to have a very elongated, dry period that we can go back out and reassess, and that's part of our feasibility analysis that we would bring back to you all about what it would take to open 112 into a drivable condition. But we've had a lot of snowy winters, we've had a lot of rainy seasons since 2023, which is when we closed that road because if you remember, Havana was closed, Highway 2 wasn't passable, 96 flooded out where that was closed for 3 months. And those were actually paved conditions of roads in our municipality. So when taking a road that was gravel, dirt, adjacent to wetlands and the O'Brien Canal, which was crestfallen, we're now getting back to a place where we can think about how to re-engage with 112 in its existing condition, not going with flyovers or rebending O'Brien Canal and having to go through the Army Corps of Engineers and 6 other partners around the table, right? Getting it back open. So that'll be back in November. But Fairfax, back to it, efficiency of the outfall, still be a drainage way, still be an ability for us then to redivert some of our operational resources from having to clean it consistently, because it will have the equipment to do so with minimized risk of a massive flood coming down line. That may or may not come during our lifetime, but that's the side benefit that comes from the project. Not necessarily the primary benefit, but it is a benefit nonetheless.
So with that, option 1, 2, or 3, sir? 1? Okay, thank you very much.
Councilmember Chacon.
I have a quick clarifying question too. You mentioned that if we go with option 3, we're responsible for transitioning the trash fleets?
No, I was providing my opinion based off of going with option 3, where Councilmember Dukes also said adding an additional 2.4.
Yeah.
And I think it's a policy conversation that, yes, pavement management maintenance is a responsibility. It's a core competency. Is you really getting back to the basics that impact the community. At that same time, if we raise that dollar amount, we're creating a new norm.
Yeah.
And in that new norm, right, you have to have something that's able to backfill that expenditure from sales and use tax additional revenues. We're trying and pushing to get that financial investment into the city with new sales and use tax, whether it's from the construction of new commercial, residential combination thereof, new businesses opening doors and vacant places. But we also are increasing what we want to take on as a responsibility to the public for trash. If you had a program to where residents were splitting 50-50, that 6.4 frees up, now goes down to 3.2 as a responsibility of the residents. Could be subsidized, could look at a program for those in need. But then you have 3.2 that can come from the general fund directly into pavement management and program, where you don't have to rely on the unassigned general fund balance to cover that cost.
Okay.
So once again, there's a push and pull effect here that we have to navigate. And it's hard to say, I want to do this and I want to do this for the community. But at some point, we're going to have to make that decision as an organization, say, where are we getting the most bang for our buck? Is it on the roads for people to get the jobs, for people to get home, for people to get to schools and to do that in a safe condition, or having their trash picked up Monday through Friday?
Okay. With that, I'd rather option 1 with the 2 million added by staff's recommendations, so we're not overburdening that and creating that norm yet. Honestly, just because, as it was already mentioned, the finer details aren't really there yet. Though I do support the Fairfax drainage update, and I do support 112th as a go around, come back around. So hopefully with that additional funds with 2 million, it will help. But I think option 1 is still the most balanced. And it sounds like it's more in line with what staff's already comfortable doing right now is that norm. Thank you.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, can I actually make a motion to adopt, are we allowed to?
Did anyone else just want to share your thinking before we get to motions? I want to make sure everyone has all the information before they start motioning. Let's say something else.
Councilmember Teeter.
Yeah, since we're going around the
Yeah.
table again, I like option number 3.
Okay.
It's my first choice. Option number 1, my second choice.
Fantastic, thank you.
Councilmember Dukes.
Yeah, I thank you for the discussion and Heather, great job, and City Manager Rogers, thanks for explaining that. Teresa, can you give me the language? Because I think there's the middle ground around what I am concerned, very similar with Councilmember Dara, around making sure this doesn't get lost. And so part of the motion, I would love to add the idea of making sure there's a feasibility study for the drainage for Fairfax. Like we don't lose sight of that in the grand scheme of what the context that Councilmember Ford said. So how did you phrase that again?
Absolutely. And this is just based on, coalescing everything I've heard from all 9 of you tonight during this great conversation, which has been really beneficial for me as your finance director. But my recommendation would be to go with option 1, add 2 million to option 1 for the 1A projects, pavement management and so forth, And then direct staff to continue to work on regional partnerships for 112th, Fairfax drainage, whatever other additional high priority projects there are, and continue to work on those on a regional partnership level and see if we can get some matching funding for those efforts to get them off the ground and bring those back when those efforts are more fully baked.
And with that in mind, would you still need additional dollars? Is that a part of programmatic and implementation for the design piece?
For Fairfax.
Sorry,
For Fairfax, you
for
mean specific,
Fairfax,
yeah.
correct. Because I guess I'm okay with what you mentioned. I love that compromise, but then the idea of like, to Councilmember Dare's point, if we don't prioritize it, will we get a design or do you need a different budget? Or is that falling with operations and we'll just know that you guys are looking out?
You stumped him.
So I think I think there's even a little bit more of a hybrid. I think, yes, not to lose sight of it and to show that we're taking tangible steps, because even getting through a design process is a tangible step. So I think if we were to fund the design portion of that 2.4, which then would allow for us to then work with my high flood district to understand, is this a project that we can get the 2.25? That still helps to advance us through 26 to back to the remaining balance of that. So I don't have the exact number, but if we're talking if it's a $4.5 million project, and if we're thinking that worst case, it is a 8% cost, right? Let's round that up just with dollars. You're probably somewhere maybe 750,000 to $1 million to get through the design.
Okay.
Plus, then if you look at a 2.25, then coming back in 27, it's still, or in 26 to talk about 27 while we spend the time, it's still, if you look at that 5-year project list, it still gets us to where we want to be by the end of 27 of having that completed.
Makes sense.
So, I mean, we can get back and see what that design work is.
But you would bring that back as part of the budget, right?
We would bring that back
Right.
on August 11th.
Right.
Yeah. And that's separate from the 112th because it's already in motion. There's already things in play for this feasibility study. So I guess Councilmember Chacon, I would be, if you want to make the motion, that's the amendment I would love to add. If that's something that works for the body, but I'll be probably asking as a friendly amendment.
That works for me. Can I make the motion then to,
Hang
oh, sorry.
on 1 second. I'm asking our city attorney to
Like-
help craft the motion. Is there, council?
So you're asking me to regurgitate, I think what we heard from Teresa. So Teresa, by all means, jump in here, but I heard a motion to approve option 1 with the additional $2 million in funding for 1A projects. And also, and this is where I'm looking at you, Teresa, to include some assurance that there will be additional review of outside funding on other projects and a feasibility study for Fairfax Park.
I think we changed that
Yeah.
to covering the cost of design for Fairfax.
Option 1, $2 million for 1A, directing staff to fund design for Fairfax. And then continue to work on the regional partnership. That's what I heard. I'm not a lawyer, though. You say it in lawyer words.
That sounded perfect.
Lawyer that up.
Well, So I make a motion for option 1 with 2 million and include 1A as part of the overall package, including the Fairfax
Design.
design.
Okay, yes, perfect.
Thank
Okay,
you.
that's the motion on the floor. Councilmember Dukes.
Second.
Okay, discussion, Mayor Pro Tem Noble?
Thank you very much. Could we add 112th in there as an amendment? Fairfax Park and 112th
So just,
design? So it could just be gravel. I'm good with that too. I always,
But just to clarify,
Road
112's already been moving forward. We'll find out in November
Yeah.
what the outcome is, correct?
At a minimum, you will know in November what it will take to get it open as a gravel condition and what it would take for it to be the penultimate.
okay. Thank you. I removed that.
Okay, thank you. All right, seeing no others are ready for the vote.
Your vote is open.
All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you.
Hot diggity. Thanks for letting me come and play.
Thank you, Mrs. Bergman.
And I get to come back next week.
Yes.
So I'm done
Absolutely.
now, Mr. Mayor, unless you need anything else from me, sir.
No, you're free to go.
All right. The one thing I'll tell you, council, is just as we did when we were with you for your retreat, my staff is here writing a summary, and you'll get a more detailed sort of summary of what you said and the reasons for it. So should you need to go back to how did we get there, we'll be providing that for you, and you'll see that sometime soon. Thanks a bunch. Have a
Thank
great
you.
night.
Appreciate it. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Noble?
And hopefully, Ms. Bergman, we will have you back for a goal discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay, gonna hold you to it. Okay, let's see here. Yes, sir. All right, public hearing. Resolution 2025-069 CBDG Annual Action Plan. Tonight's public hearing is on the CDBG 2025-2029 5-year consolidated plan and 2025 annual action plan. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to afford the public an opportunity to speak and provide input regarding the city's 5-year consolidated plan, annual action plan as required by federal regulations. We'll now open the public hearing and invite George Lewis to make his presentation. Thank you for sticking around early. Good evening, Mr. Lewis.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is George Lewis. I am the Community Programs and Projects Coordinator. This evening, I will be presenting an overview for the CDBG 2025 through 2029 Consolidated Plan. Since 2016, the City of Commerce City has received CDBG funding from HUD in support in the development of urban communities and low to moderate income areas. As an entitlement city, we receive the grant yearly. Through subrecipients and internal agencies, we provide support to low to moderate income areas of the City of Commerce City. The CDBG grant is administered through the Consolidated Plan, which is approved by Council every 5 years, empowered by the Annual Action Plan yearly. The grant funds can be allocated towards public infrastructure improvements, community facilities, housing rehabilitation, economic development initiatives, and critical public services that directly benefit residents and enhance overall community well-being. Given the amount of funding, we only focus on a few of the items. The Consolidated Plan outlines funding decisions for program years 2025 through 2029, identifying community needs, priorities, and proposed activities. It also determines how grant funds will be allocated to programs and organizations over the 5-year plan. The annual action plan is submitted to HUD each year and outlines the specific uses of grant funding through the upcoming program year's allocation. As an Adams County Consortium member, we are only required to submit an abbreviated plan. Much of the necessary data is collected and compiled by the county. However, we did actively participate by distributing a community input survey and attending the stakeholder engagement meetings. Using the community feedback we gathered, we collaborated with Civitas, our HUD support service consultant, to identify the priority needs and goals for the 5-year plan period. Guided by community input, a comprehensive needs assessment, recent allocation data, and housing market analysis, and direction from city leadership, we were able to develop a well-informed consolidated plan. We aim to assist approximately 2,500 individuals through public facilities and infrastructure improvements, 1,500 individuals through public service activities, and supporting the rehabilitation of 250 owner-occupied housing units in the city of Commerce City. At this time, no program funding is expected to be used for administrative costs, ensuring that all resources are directed towards community impact. As a large part of the 2025 program year, we will be collaborating with Public Works to launch a sidewalk project that will create safer, more accessible pathways throughout the core city. Pending City Council approval, the consolidated plan and annual action plan will be submitted to HUD before the required deadline of August 16th, 2025. At this point, I will open up the floor for any comments or questions.
Okay, since this is a public hearing, we had Councilmember Madera left the room at 8:46. Mayor Pro Tem Noble.
Thank you very much. Thank you for providing that information. I wanted to clarify a couple of things. We had a discussion about the ARPA funding for the ACT program, and that there was an agreement with Brothers so that all rehab, the contract is for all rehab has to occur within a particular boundary. And we learned that there were people outside of that boundary who had needs as well. So when you talk about low to moderate income and homeowner housing rehab activities, could the people who live outside of the Brothers boundary avail themselves of CBDG funds?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Any other council members have questions? Councilmember Teeter.
Yeah, I'm looking at this 2025 annual action plan, and on my computer, it says CDBG services is minus 500 persons assisted. It's still 70,000 funding, but on this screen up here, it says minus 250 persons. Why is that?
So what we did was we compared numbers from the previous annual action plans and the CAPER, which is our year-end performance report. And what we have noticed is that sometimes we had put a allotted amount that was slightly higher than what we were actually accomplishing. So at this time, what we did was we lowered the actual goal to make sure that we do hit our target area and possibly be more than what we have listed.
Okay, thank you.
So just to clarify, when it says 500 persons assisted, is that negative 250?
No, I'm sorry. That is our targeted goal for the year to assist people.
Okay, I think that's what they're seeing is on the presentation on ours, it says 3,000 people assisted for the 398,000. And the other one says 250,000, 250, 500 on our, and this one says 250.
Those were edits that were later made. I apologize.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Councilmember Teeter, do you have more questions?
That's all.
Okay. Councilmember Douglas?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, George. So who is responsible for review of and approval of the applications? Is that done by you or an outside source or?
When you say the applications, are you referring to the nonprofit funding applications or for the minor home
The
repair?
applications by the someone who is in need of assistance.
So, for minor home repair, the project that we do list through the city, I assist with intaking. The actual approval is done by Brothers Redevelopment.
Okay. And how long does that usually take?
If an applicant can get me all of their required documentation by Monday, sometimes I can possibly get them approved by Friday, and we can set up an assessment for the next coming weeks. Now, the ARPA funding and ACT program that you asked about, that they asked about earlier, that is a little bit different. That is an intake system that we do in-house. We then have to vet the application, and we will then be sending it out to Brothers Redevelopment or Habitat for Humanity based on the need of the application, whether it's exterior or interior repairs.
Okay, so what's the difference between the two?
The ACT funding program actually has a greater income limit guideline that we follow, and it is based in a specific core area. And we actually allow a lot more funding per home, whether it's exterior or interior.
So it really doesn't have to do with the actual project. It has to do with income criteria and.
Correct. And
All right.
the part of funding that it was from.
Okay, so you said for the act, it allows a greater income and then it's boundary restricted.
Correct.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other council members have questions? All right. Close that portion of the hearing. And I ask the clerk, before I read this, has there any public signed up to testify or like?
We did not have any.
Comments? Okay, thank you. All right, I will now ask the city clerk to, oh, we already did that. Sorry about that. Okay. I will now close the public hearing. I need a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2025-069. Councilmember Chacon,
I make a motion to adopt resolution 2025-069.
Councilmember Kim.
Second.
Okay, is there any more discussion? Councilmember Teeter?
No, I was just going to second it.
Okay, thank you. All right, the motion floor is to adopt resolution 2025-069. I'll ask the clerk to read the title and take a roll call vote.
Resolution 2025-069, a resolution approving the 2025 through 2029 5-year consolidated plan and 2025 annual action plan for the Community Development Block CDBG program. Your vote is open.
I'll pass unanimously. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, on to administrative council business. Any council members have administrative items, emergency or unforeseen circumstances? And before we start there, I'd like to have our city attorney, Zarzeki, explain.
Mayor, I think I know what you're alluding to. I'm actually going to have that conversation with you all in a separate forum. I'll send an email out on my review of how we've historically utilized the admin council business as it relates to open meetings laws, but I will leave it at that for tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, Councilmember Chacon.
I wanted to follow up on the public comment of Robert Hines and traffic on Brighton Road for 104th and 112th. Is there any way that we can address that issue? I know it goes right back to 112th, we already discussed, but just try some type of traffic calming.
So we'll have our teams look at what are appropriate measures that can be taken. We're aware of Mr. Hines' request, and I know we'll have some staff that will reach out to him again. But I think the bigger thing that we will have to look at is we'll have to conduct some analysis and some tests to see what the actual implications of speeding and or other issues on Brighton Road. There are portions of Brighton Road that are under our jurisdiction, while there are some that are under Adams County Sheriff's Office. So it'll be a little bit of a nuanced progression forward with Mr. Hines, but we will at least engage with him again.
Thank you for that. And I'm not sure if I put it in administrative business or council reports, but I just wanted to remind council that I'll be gone next week for a retreat for work. And the next week also, unfortunately consecutively, that will be for a ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Douglas.
I was going to ask the same thing to follow up on the public comment. So what happens if that portion of road that he's referencing is under county jurisdiction?
It's no different than how we partner with the county when it comes to some of our enclaves in the core city. There's joint enforcement. There's discussions around practices between our public works and their public works, if appropriate for that classification and type of road of how it's moving traffic. So I think some of the due diligence is, one, confirming there's a speeding issue, and that's where some of the analysis and issues come out. It's speaking with Mr. Hines to understand his perspective and impacts on his quality of life, or potentially if there's others in that discussion, and then coming up with a determination on how to think about enforcement or improvements that can be done. Some improvements may not be done because, Brighton Road is a regional roadway that connects from Brighton all the way down into Denver. And that's a particular portion of it. So putting traffic calming measures such as like speed humps may not be a measure, but that's not the only measure that we have within our toolkit to apply. And then thinking about that from PD as well, and collaboration with the sheriff's office. That's all to say that there's work to be done and to look at, and Mr. Hines is the starting point for that.
So if we could follow up with him as the city as soon as possible to let him know that he's on our list and he is a priority, and that our apologies for maybe not following up as quickly as we should have when he first came in, and explain to him the difference of jurisdictions and how we can work together, but to let him know that that we're working on it and that he is not being ignored would be appreciated.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem Noble.
Thank you, Mayor. And Councilmember Douglas, I just want to let you know that I reached out to our Deputy City Manager, Cheryl Karstens, and asked her if she would talk to them, because I was afraid they were going to sit here waiting for us to reference their item. And I'm grateful that she did meet with them, and I have a feeling it will be taken care of by the city now. Thank you. Also, I want to talk a bit about ARPA, since this came up earlier, and then also CBDG. So I don't know if people knew this, but the ARPA is based on AMI, and the qualifying incomes are about $90,000 annually for a single person and $117,000 annually for a family. CBDG is considerably lower than that. I learned this at the Senior Commission Lunch and Learn. The topic was the ACT program. So I just wanted to point that out, that there is an income difference between CBDG and the ACT program. The ACT program has a much higher income level, but it is a very defined area in Commerce City, only South Commerce City, because of the contract with Brothers Redevelopment. The other thing I wanted to ask about, because it was brought up earlier, we were talking about waste and so forth. I wondered about the status of the Republic Services contract and the EV trucks.
Great question, ma'am. We are still working through those negotiations. There are some terms and conditions that I believe I will feel a little bit more confident in being able to execute after getting some support and clarification from you all as council. So there's going to be another touch point before that execution of contract to make sure that the various terms are clear, knowing that this is a significant aspect for the city. And I am discussing with the city attorney on how best to do so. That does not then upend the negotiations in a certain forum.
Okay, and and then another question is about the location of the Quick Trip at 104th and Highway 2 that will be disrupting the RTD parking lot. Have we found another location for the RTD parking lot?
We have not actively pursued that with RTD. Obviously, that is, I would say, outside of our scope and purview, given that they have entered into a private transaction with that developer. So we don't have any, we have not had any direct discussions with them on that. I know when the developer was here, they had suggested that it may shift to a different location as they're building out the development, but we have not engaged with them. That's not to say if there was an interest for them looking for other property along that corridor that we wouldn't assist, or if we had property ourselves that could facilitate that we would entertain that. But
Could we reach out to RTD? I think it's really important because that's a multimodal, and it's the only bus lane in Commerce City going east-west in North Commerce City. And to have a giant gas station going in its place just seems counterintuitive. So it would be good to know where whether it's going to stay in North Commerce City. Thank you.
That's a fair question. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Councilmember Teeter.
Yes, I was kind of wanting to know what the status is on that photo radar Jeep.
Say that one more time, sir.
I was wanting to know what the status was on that photo radar Jeep.
We just signed the contract, so it is awaiting delivery.
And delivery takes,
I can't say that off the top of my head, sir. I'd have to get back to you.
and are we just looking at one vehicle or one for the north and one for the south?
Just one vehicle in its totality, sir.
Oh, great. It's not going to be enough.
City Manager Rogers, did you?
And what's the status on Highway 2 speed limit? Is that we ever gonna look at that again, or is it on hold, or?
So the speed limit discussion, I know that's been raised, I think by yourself, sir, in conversations around the median improvements. Our median improvement project is moving forward. I am waiting on clarification from the vendor when that construction will start. But once I have that, I can send it out to the full council as well, knowing that that's a significant project for the city of trying to improve the safety along Highway 2 from 120th down to 69th Avenue.
That's all I got.
Thank you. Just want to clarify, is that a photo radar van or a Jeep?
I don't know what specific vehicle in which that
Okay.
will be placed.
I just heard Jeep, so I just.
All I can say is that it will be on 4 wheels and will be able to, yeah, catch people like Mr. Zarzaki driving down Highway 2.
Oh.
So,
Well, last
Oh,
time I
that-
asked about it, you said it was a van and then, or I asked about the van and you're the one that told me it was a Jeep.
you know, Jeep, van, Scooby-Doo mystery machine, I will take whatever we can get
Some of
to
those
help
Jeeps are
with
pretty nice.
capturing,
but Yeah.
helping to make the environment just a little bit safer. So, but I will say, we have it, or we signed the contract, it's waiting to be delivered, and obviously then there are some fit ups or improvements that will need to be done with hauling it out as required by Avis law. So there's still some additional steps, but the big piece is it is on its way.
Thank you. Councilmember Madera.
I wanted to circle back to that discussion that we had on CDOT and how staff needs council to get involved to advocate for our city. Can you please share the CDOT's contact information for the director and our counterpart over there with the council in its entirety?
Yes, sir. It's just come to my awareness as well. I think it was Kristen Stewart, I believe. I could be saying her first name. But she is actually no longer with CDOT as far as the representative from our district. And there is a process that I'm aware that I believe that they are underway with to fill her position. So what I can share is obviously the executive director and the district director at CDOT. I can share the other contact information for the State Transportation Commission that, while isn't our direct district representation, but may still be worth reaching out to.
Yeah, whoever, I think it'd be beneficial for us to reach out to everyone and see who's here we can bend.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, on the report, City Manager Rogers.
Thank you, sir. Couple of things. I know I sent an email out last week about the permissive left turning movements at a handful of intersections that would be forthcoming over the course of the next couple of months. 104th and Chambers, 104th Highway 2, 88th Avenue and Tower, 83rd Avenue and Tower, and 81st Avenue and Tower. We have been able to accelerate 2 of those intersections, 81st and 83rd and Tower, will be turned off this coming Friday. Our teams have been working internally on how to get that information and the necessary signage up to make drivers aware. I think what is another appointment, just point of reference for you all from an economic development perspective, is that staff is working closely with the county to help maintain important enterprise zone locations within the city. As those areas are being redistributed, enterprise zones, as you all know, are state-funded programs encouraging business development and job growth in economically distressed areas. The Adams County Economic Development Office administers the program in Adams County. So the majority of our enterprise zone, if you look at the map that is published, is of the core city as well as south of 96, east of Piccadilly, running north along Tower to 120. So we are still gathering information, but just wanted you to be aware that this is also out there. And we are having conversations, or we are engaging to have conversations with the county. Public Works has a new streetlight coordination program that includes staff from both the inspection team and the parks maintenance team. Both groups of the staff are inspecting all lights throughout our city, whether the city is responsible for maintaining or an outside vendor. That could be United Power, that could be Xcel. During the evening hours when the streetlights are lit, this allows staff to report any outages to the outside vendors who maintain, or so that we can address it internally. So that is a new program that has gone live. Park maintenance staff is also teaming up with South Adams County Fire, the Sand Creek Regional Greenway, Mile High Flood District, on a fire mitigation program around the Sand Creek Trail to help move dead wood debris that could potentially start a fire along the trail. And that project will run for 10 days. Crews completed a new signage installation project on 104th Avenue and Tower going northbound, but we've also installed signs at five different locations throughout the city to help with speed limits, yielding, pedestrians, and merging traffic to improve public safety. PRG for July 26th is going to be doing a day of celebration that promotes inclusivity and accessibility. It's called A Day with Friends, and we're inviting community members of all abilities to engage in fun, learning, and connection. And with PD, we had the Commerce City Police Explorers. If you don't know, that is a program for youth that participated in what is the 2025 Explorers Conference, which was held at Western State College in Gunnison. I know that doesn't make you feel so proud, Mr. Dukes, but you know what? Not everything can happen at Mesa. That being said, during that week, the Explorers took part in law enforcement skills competition, competing against 142 other explorers from across the Western region, representing 19 different agencies. And our group collectively brought home 2 first-place finishes and 3 fifth-place finishes in various competitions. They represented the city and the Commerce City Police Department extremely well. Congratulations to the Explorers. We will be highlighting you this Friday. Good job. And then last but not least, we have the final Music in the Park series this Thursday from 6:30 to 8:30 at the Pioneer Park. Free music, food, fun, all come out, please. And then last but not least, we are also 1 week away from the launch of the city's new website. So we will be making a major push on hopefully improving the accessibility of information for council. And I lied. The last time I want to share with you all, right now for August 4th is when we're going to be having a budget presentation. That's for the general budget of the various departments. That's slated to occur for 2 hours. We also then have other items on consent agenda, as well as a special meeting for the Urban Renewal Authority. At the end of that meeting, we have a discussion around the city manager's informal update. It brings that night to around 12:45 for all activities. To help with navigating the discussions, which I think are more important, is shifting my executive session to August 18th. In order to do so, both parties would have to agree to that. So I'm putting that to try to help shorten that night and have that focus beyond the particular matters around the budget discussions of the various departments and the things that they want to accomplish as far as 2026 initiatives. So it'll be shifting my exec session from the 4th to the 18th of August.
Councilmember Dukes.
Thank you, Mayor. So, City Manager Rogers, do you need a formal motion to shift that? That's my first question. I have a couple more, but just on that.
I don't believe so. I think I just need a head nod from the majority that says, yes, move to the 18th, make my night shorter. And we can make that happen.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Anybody object? Saying none.
So my other question, so earlier this year, we put together a motion to visit some cities.
Yes, sir.
And do a council visit. Can you give us a just quick update where we're at with the visitation?
Yeah, so our staff is reaching out to 2 municipalities to be able to have that kickoff. I think there's going to be some initial planning as to particular focus areas. I think what would be beneficial from this council to think about, and it may be a worthwhile conversation as you all think about, growth and development. You think about in the Northern Range, but during your growth and development, of what are some priorities that you want to talk about with those municipalities that we're going to be visiting with.
Okay.
And while I say that you may want to talk about growth development, it's probably beneficial because you're going to have Heather here to help facilitate that discussion for you all next week.
Okay.
But at the same time, it shouldn't limit your opportunities to send me information individually where we can then collectively come back with themes that can then be compiled, shared with you all before we kick off. What we're looking at is one city in South Denver and one in West Denver that has, I'll call it an eclectic level of development that is maybe blending urban and suburban context. So it's really working through those details.
Okay, thank you. I have one comment and one more question. So the question I have is around, I know at the federal level, there's the passage of the, I guess, the Big Beautiful Bill. And I understand in reading that there's some places to provide funding for small businesses, or there's some things that trickle down to local. When we have the budget discussion, are you guys able to like unpack what's in this big piece of legislation to see what are potential opportunities for us locally? Or that's future discussion?
That's a great question. I don't think we've looked at it from that lens. I think we've looked at the lens from direct impact to existing services that we provide to the community, not from a forward-looking impact to the private community and where can we bridge. If that goes away, I think what's also going to be important to understand is while the Big Beautiful Bill has been passed. So for example, we talk about CDBG that was before you tonight. The Big Beautiful Bill has zeroed that out as far as a funding source. However, House legislation is showing previous dollar amounts for 25 being carried forward for 26. So where is that at? And it's where it really lies between Big Beautiful Bill, House legislation that ultimately will then get passed by both the Senate, and then how does that then trickle down to the state, which also has an implication on what may or may not be provided and whether it's a bridge. And then there's that policy discussion of, okay, if you go bridge there, where are we pulling from to do so?
I would, at some point, not an official motion, but it would be great to understand the comprehensive approach, because there are some things from my understanding in there that could help areas like Derby, could help other parts of our city in terms of revitalization. So I love to kind of find a balance of like, what is the deficit it creates, but also what are the things that are possible for at a local level. Knowing, and I completely understand that there's two thoughts about it, but I'm curious, well, what do we do? What's in our control local to move some of this forward to help our community? That's the intent of that. The last piece, I just want to make a comment. I know on our consent agenda, we talked about the ice skating rink, and we approved the budget to move forward with that. And I just want to give a shout out to appreciation to you and your team around really being thoughtful around what that looks like with the ice skating rink, but also looking at opportunities up north, whereas the back to school kickoff with the food truck rally, that was also part of our motion. And I just want to give a shout out to you and your team, the JD and the team around just being thoughtful around how do we spread out these experiences across the whole city while creating, not let the perfect get in the way of good, and really looking at space to have Mary Marcus and ice skating rinks that's going to really impact our community for a long term. So just I appreciate that as you're walking through that process now. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, City Attorney Zarzeki.
Well, the city manager took the wind out of my sails a little bit. I was proud to say that I think we'll be able to bring the shopping cart ordinance to council on August 4th, which is currently the midnight plus meeting. So I'm looking to council for a little bit of feedback for both that as well as the issue that the mayor alluded to with regard to admin council business. If you recall, we had a legislative and policy committee. I'm working on getting that draft red line language prepared for council to review on an upcoming regular meeting. We could have those, my office could have those items both ready by August 4th. However, that would be on a consent agenda unless the council thinks that there's a need to have conversations about one or both of those, in which case I'd work with the city manager to put it on a subsequent meeting to make sure that you all have enough time. So I think I think the shopping cart ordinance passed unanimously, so that might not be controversial. Nevertheless, want to be respectful of everyone's time, and if we're looking at a 12 o'clock meeting, I don't want to rush folks to move forward with an ordinance revision. Any thoughts?
Yes, I don't mind making those adjustments. So the meeting won't go to midnight and
Okay, so what I could do is I can move it, I can put it on the consent agenda, and if someone decides that it is worthy of conversation, we could pull it. If the night is getting long, we could make a motion to continue it to the next subsequent meeting. That might be the most practical way to do both.
all right.
That is all.
Thank you. I forgot to ask City Manager Rogers, are we going to go over the schedule for the regular meetings?
Yes, sir. If I can have Ms. Brittany pull that up, absolutely.
Because I have a question on those 4 hearings. Can't think what night it is, but there's 4 hearings.
Oh, yeah, you mean September 15th.
So if we could, can we change some of those hearings, move them around a little bit?
You are reading my mind, Mayor. We can pull that up.
Oh, was that it? Speed limit, huh?
So if you don't mind, Brittany, if we could jump to September 15th. You know, we have been having an internal conversation around this date. Obviously, kind of standard practice. We do have annual crime report slated for an hour. That was obviously a motion made by council to receive where we stand with that information. We have a handful of proclamations as well as resolutions. But I think as we scroll down into the public hearing, what we've actually done, Mayor, where I think you were previously looking, we had 4. We have since removed 2 of those 4 items to future hearing dates. You know, this is, I think, a result of, you know, when we've had holidays and this one being the Labor Day, where we have only 1 business meeting in the month of September. It didn't allow for us to properly space on the initial outset. But after digging back in and seeing about where some of those public hearings actually lay as far as the approval process, we felt comfortable that we could shift too often, that what you find before you would be ready to go come before you for some level of form of decision-making. What really just creates that increase is, one, we have a safety action plan. I think that's important because that safety action plan unlocks federal funding for improvements that are either signage related, traffic calming related, signalization and things of that nature that come from the federal government. So getting that adopted will allow for us and actually to apply for grants to help fund safety improvements, both in the Northern Range and in the core city. So hate to shift that off of your schedule so that we can then take that next step. We have a public hearing on a development site that had came before a previous council. They have gone back through the process after the previous actions taken. And then we have, if we scroll up, the 1-hour discussion for, once again, the annual crime report. That's where it makes up a lot of our time, as well as the senior commission annual presentation. And then you apply time for just the consent agenda, you easily get to 11:20. So we have already taken action of shifting 2 off, which got us from 1:20 down to 11:20.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Good question, though.
Any other council members have questions for upcoming regular meetings?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
All right, on to council reports. Councilmember Ford.
Thank you. Mike Bonello, former council member, former water district board member, went to school with his kids, and his sister-in-law is Claudia Barnes, who's still a resident here in Commerce City. I just want to give my public condolences to his family for the loss of his wife, Carla. That's all.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Councilmember Ford. Councilmember Kim.
Thank you, Mayor. So earlier this week, I did meet with the developer Wall and Kane. They are the property generally located off 112th in Havana, also known as Murray Farms. On Saturday, I attended a car show on Saturday in Thornton, and this was benefiting a girl by the name of Linda. She's 7 years old. She has what's known as a diffuse midline glioma. It's an aggressive form of brain cancer that's rare, that sits on the central nervous system. She's 7. So of course, this was money benefiting her to raise money for her grandmother, Julie, who actually lives in the city as well, along with her daughter, Brianna, who is the mother of Linda, lives in our city. This is the second car show she's done in Thornton. They raised quite a bit of money, obviously, because obviously Medicaid doesn't pay for everything. So there are obviously other bills and whatnot. I just want to throw that out there that while over internet, right, says generally it typically happens to children between the ages of 5 and 7. Linda is 7. She's making it. And so just want to give them a shout out regarding that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kim. Mayor Pro Tim Noble.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing that, Councilmember Kim, and my condolences to the family that Councilmember Ford talked about. I wanted to thank Councilmember Dukes for bringing forward the motion on marketing for xeriscaping. I learned that there was a second home in the area where there was artificial turf that had been installed in the front yard. So I just wanted to reiterate that Commerce City has not approved artificial turf before our xeriscaping ordinance that we approved last August. And we do not approve artificial turf now in the front yard either. That doesn't mean you can't do it in your backyard, but it can't be in your front yard. It can't be in the right-of-way or the tree lawn, as people call it. There are lots of great opportunities, wonderful ideas for doing your yards if you would like to make them water-wise and drought resistant. So please know that there's other routes to go. And I look forward to the city sharing that information broadly so that people have an understanding, especially the HOAs and the residents who serve on the HOA boards and approve these kinds of things, to make sure that we all get under the same umbrella together. Thank you.
Councilmember Madera.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Since the last meeting, I met with a representative from Cypress Investments, who's looking to come into the city around the 112th area. I also met with Del West, who's looking to bring a for sale affordable product into Commerce City in the Mile High Greyhound Park area. And, both those meetings went well, and think they're looking to meet with the rest of council to share their ideas and get council's feedback. Thank you.
Councilmember Dare, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last portion. And who did you meet with? Sorry.
What was that?
What organization or folks, who did you meet with? Sorry about that.
Cypress Investments and Del West.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Dukes.
Thank you. Just echoing Mayor Pro Tem's comments around, please don't put artificial turf in your front yard. This is not a part of the policy. HOA review process, just want to emphasize, please don't put artificial turf in your front yard. That's not our intent or the city's intent. So, yeah. The other piece I want to meet or update is just I met with Peter Wall as well to talk through some potential development for the Murray Farms and just the idea of what the residents are looking for in terms of housing, middle housing, single family homes or single family apartments, just thinking through that. I also met with the representatives from Del West as well. And this was an update meeting. I was actually with Councilmember Teeter, where we were able to get information around the TIFs and how essentially what's happening over in Mile High Greyhound Park is within alignment of the expectations of the agreements as we think about property values and things of that nature. This is also a great story and reminder that what's happening over in Mile High Greyhound is not only just serving our communities that are coming in here from out of the community, out of Commerce City, but there's a lot of stories around residents who have been able to move into the townhomes that are for rent from Commerce City. And this is a great space for them to look at opportunities to raise families, 4-bedroom homes that are updated with the newer appliances, with the newer faucets, newer sinks, but then also eco-friendly across the city. And so there's a number of stories that they were able to share about the positive impact. And then they also shared just the positive impact around their increase in some of the safety and security around the apartments around there. As we know, there were some challenges early on, and they looked at how to address it, not just for the current residents that were there, but beginning to look at some of the transition housing for families. And that's actually helped decrease some of the challenges in addition to their police presence or their security presence. And so it was a positive meeting overall and a hopeful opportunity for everyone in Commerce City, specifically folks in the South, as this is a great opportunity to grow the city with quality homes, quality places for rentals, and then also some for-product homes in the future that they can rent or they can buy at a really reduced rate. I hesitate and I stutter a little bit because when I think about the reduced rate now as compared to what I was able to get into in Reunion, my first home was in Reunion as a dirt start for like $225,000. We were fortunate as a family to be able to get out there. I know some of the colleagues probably didn't like those model homes that we were able to get into, the Shea homes, Shea spaces. But without that opportunity to actually do a dirt start and buy a home at that rate, we wouldn't be out here. And so I think about chances in Mile High Greyhound Park where they're going to look at homes that start at $300,000, which is still a lot for a lot of people. And I will never forget how much it was just to comprehend $225,000. So anything we can do to continue to have spaces for our residents that are current, for our firefighters, for our teachers, for our workers here at the city, I'm going to be in favor for that as we think about how do we continue to grow our community. This not for now, but for long term. So with that, I rest.
Any other council members have reports? Councilmember Douglas?
Thank you. I attended the Cultural Council via phone on Tuesday night while I was attending the federal advocacy meeting for NLC in Columbus, Ohio. And for a Midwestern city, I could not believe how they have incorporated the arts into their culture there, whether it be for people of greater means or people who have lesser means. Everything's centered around art, and it was pretty amazing. I sit on the board for energy, environment, and natural resources, as well as the race, equity, and leadership boards. And those were very, very interesting discussions held at both of those committees this time around under this current administration. And so I plan on doing a written report this time so that I can get that out to council so that what I learned doesn't get overlooked. I also did a tour of an apartment company that creates the units inside a warehouse using robotics. And that's from everything from the steel studs to painting the interiors and then putting them together in an apartment complex, which I was able to visit. And they also did a rehab of an old trolley station where they made it into a community restaurant facility. So on the first floor was all the restaurants, and then you go upstairs either by elevator or stair, and then they have an arcade and meeting rooms and other places to sit down and enjoy your meal with whoever you're going out with. And that was pretty amazing. So I have a lot of pictures of all of that. And just want to put something together so that everyone else can benefit from what I learned in Columbus with the federal advocacy groups. And I'm going to tell you that NLC is still saying that there's federal money to be accessed. So I really think we still need to be looking into that. And the Cultural Council actually is planning to do a car show coming up in the fall. So maybe that's something that you could collaborate on. So just thought I'd mention that as well. Oh, and then also on the consent agenda tonight, there was approval of two different art projects. One of them is in Kalu Park, and it was, they consulted Indigenous community to come up with the design for that, and that was actually a member of that community who came up with the artwork, as well as they're replacing Cockaburs Memorial, but it's not going to be a brass statue this time that can be cut off the hooves and stolen, which I think it's 3 times that happened. So this is something different. So the Cultural Council's really been doing a lot of work, and I think they should be recognized for everything that they contribute. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Noble?
I'm sorry, and thank you, Councilmember Douglas, because that really was beautiful art. The only problem with it being on consent is that we couldn't show it publicly, but people will be able to see what's planned for Kalu Park. Among the residents I met with in the past week, one of them had been in charge of the graffiti team at the city of Lone Tree. And he was making a point that he's noticing graffiti growing in the North Commerce City area. You can generally tell where someone lives because you can see their boundaries where they're tagging different parts of the community. And they will test it and then expand beyond that period, that area. They'll just keep coming and coming. I said, it's like the broken windows theory. So apparently in the city of Lone Tree, they had a program where they actually knew what the paint was that each of the different subdivisions used. And the team would go around and clean it all up. So I hope that we can take a look at a graffiti team coming up in the future. Thanks.
Thank you. And I'm just going to keep this short so we can get to our 9:45 timeline. I also had the opportunity to go to Columbus, Ohio for the Transportation Infrastructure Summit, Advocacy Summit. And some of the highlights, we did a deep dive on the Infrastructure Investment Act, IIJA. I had also reached out to City Manager Rogers and asked about Safe Streets for All. How much money did we have allocated for the federal portion of the Safe Streets for All?
So I was able to get some clarification on that one, Mayor. For the Safe Streets, the SF4A, Safe Streets for America, we would have had to apply. We hadn't applied. We applied as a partnership because of where the potential project would be on 120th. Grew out of scope and scale and size. So for instance, so the Safe Streets to School, where we're talking about safe connections to Prairie View High School, given that the predominance of that impacted area is outside of the city's incorporated boundaries, we would have had to work through the city of Brighton to submit said application. All of that pretty much dovetails from Safe Streets to Schools, Prairie View, but then thinking about 120th and 85 corridor, and then with the county's discussion of 120th to 85, that it led to a consortium approach. What we're waiting to hear back, and I'm trying to get an update, what we're waiting to hear back is where the county or what response the county has received. And we just don't have that yet. Once we have a better understanding, I think we'll know what that's applied for. We have an opportunity to apply this upcoming year in 2026. But for the timing in which relied on a heavy partnership, we just put it all into the county's bucket for the entire 120th corridor. That would then accommodate what we were originally going after on a smaller scale between Brighton and ourselves.
Okay, I didn't realize that we applied for like $2 million and then Brighton had theirs in the county. Thanks for clarifying that. Also, we talked about AASHTO earlier. AASHTO is actually supporting to toll federal highways for the state of Indiana. And if that goes forward, we're looking at the roads that are federal highways being maybe tolled in other states as well, which is not a good thing. And 75% of the roads in towns and cities make up the majority of roads in Colorado, but those towns and cities only receive 8% of the funding when the money goes to the state for us to be allocated federal funds. So they're looking at a different formula, a different way to approach Congress on making sure when dollars are allocated for towns and cities, and we get a bigger portion instead of coming out with the 7%.
Okay. Thank you for making us aware. I appreciate that.
And then there's some resolutions that deals with passenger rail and then also local infrastructure. So I will put this together and then get this to you so the council will know, and also a report out. I also attended Dr. Cogwai was there as well. And so that concludes my report. I need a motion and a second to enter into executive session of the City Council of Commerce City pursuant to CRS Section 24-6402, parentheses 4 and B for the purpose of receiving legal advice regarding City of Greenwood Village versus State of Colorado. Mayor Pro Tem Noble.
So moved?
Councilmember Chacon.
Second.
Any discussion? The motion on the floor is to enter executive session of the City of Commerce City pursuant to CRS Section 24-6, 402, parentheses 4 and B for the purpose of receiving legal advice regarding the City of Greenwood Village versus State of Colorado. I will ask the clerk to take a roll call vote.
Your vote is open.
Okay, that passed unanimously. Okay, we will not be, we will now enter executive session. Council will not be returning to take action following executive session. And we'll immediately adjourn following executive session. The meeting broadcast and recording will be ended.